There was a time in the Marine Corps where I was shaking hands with Senator McCain during his presidential election campaign in Iraq on a soccer field with a belt-fed machine gun in my lap, and I have a photo of it. And then I'm over here running a skid steer, getting an energy drink at 7-Eleven. I got devastated when I would lose, man. You know, and I wasn't a bad kid. I just made stupid mistakes. And I always wanted to join the military. Boom, kit, right into the combat zone. That's what that environment's like. But at the same time, I didn't feel like there was any growth for me. And I would go to these classes and I'd sit all weekend and I'd learn about real estate investing. How to buy multifamily, how to buy commercial, how to buy mobile home parks, how to buy single family, how to fix and flip, how to build portfolios. Taking the action and not slowing down and dialing off, but making a calculated decision on that journey. I was all in. So when it comes to it, he's like, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen. You know what I mean? Like all these things could happen.
Thanks for the support, Dad.
Thanks for the support.
Ladies and gentlemen, as always, it's both an honor and a pleasure to welcome my next guest to the podcast. He's a U.S. Marine Corps veteran deployed to Iraq as well as Africa. He's a real estate investor, a multi-million-dollar portfolio of properties investor, highly sought-after speaker and coach, and he's now on a mission to share his knowledge and experience guiding others towards financial independence through real estate investing. And the biggest thing for a lot of you guys listening out there, the transition from military into entrepreneurship, which is something I get asked a lot about. So we're going to dive heavy into that. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stage, Austin Hancock.
Mike, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming. You know, you do kind of have a porn star name.
I know, if Austin Hancock.
Yeah, I mean,
that looked good on my name tapes too. You know,
hey, I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. What's the last full book that you've read?
Last full book that I read, Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. And I'll be completely honest with everybody. I don't read the book. I listen to the audio book.
Is that an investment one, or is
no? It's like more of a mindset shift about fear and faith and how you analyze that. So I highly recommend it to everybody watching this.
So it is kind of a faith-based book.
It's not. Honestly, it's not. It's about how we interpret fear and having faith in that it'll work, more or less. Not having faith in a higher power, but having faith that it'll work.
What was the biggest takeaway from it, you think?
How much our fear holds us back and how much... I mean, just that, really, honestly. Like, fear holds people back at a massive level and handicaps people from doing so many things. And there's a lot of people with a massive amount of potential that sit in the graveyard.
Is there a way to synopsize his methodology for not allowing it to cripple you in that way? Or is it you got to read or listen to the
highly recommend the book because it tells a story. And storybooks are great, and it goes back and he's basically having a conversation with the devil, like in the story, in the book, in the audio book, and whether you're reading it or not. But to sum it up, most of the things that, you know, we think of that are normal are actual fears that we may have holding us back, right? But money, getting into that relationship, things like that. But
is it as simple as just don't worry about it? Like, how do you not worry about it if it's paralyzing you?
You know, the book kind of, how does the book put it? The best way to do it is obviously read the book, man. Yeah. I mean, that's going to be your best bet.
I got you. We'll punt on that one a little bit.
Yeah, punt it down the road. Yeah. I didn't know I had a book report.
Well, I mean, for me, I'm just curious in hearing it because
it's a good book.
I agree in that, you know, even myself included, I try to be mindful of the fact that, you know, same with like kind of the stoicism philosophy on, you know, not worrying about things because it's fucking fruitless and actually counterproductive. But to me, the understanding of that message is pretty easy. The application of it is where it's tricky, you know, because sometimes, 100%. You know, fears creep into your mind, and it's kind of like, you know, when you're meditating and you're thinking about porn or fucking pizza or, you know, whatever, and it's like keeping in that mindset of not allowing it to take over is the tricky part, which is always, for me at least, what I'm most interested in hearing about. But
a lot of times, I mean, you made me think more about it, but like the book, you know, you're making a calculated decision. You're not just making a random decision. You're not just like, oh, fucking send it. We all know those guys that fall flat on their face too. But the reality is, like, you got to start creating some trust with yourself, and that's through following through the things you're going to do. And so you compound that confidence essentially, and then that parlays into actual, you know, I did this. I'm going to sign up, for instance, you know, sign up for the military. Then I'm going to do this, and I did it. And then I'm going to start a business. Okay, well, I've started it. It's just taking the action and not slowing down and dialing off, but making a calculated decision on that journey, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. I think holding yourself accountable is the key to gaining confidence for sure.
And man, this is huge. Like the further down the entrepreneurial road I've gone, and I gained good perspective. We'll get into it though about like it being in the Marine Corps at a young age and going to Iraq was how short life really is. So like when you get worried about these things and you're fucking stressed about all this stuff going on, you look at it and you zoom out enough and you realize like, I mean, it's fucking wasting my time. Like I'm just getting ate up with it.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. What's something you wish you were better at?
Something I'm working on right now is speaking, being engaged. Yeah, absolutely. Working on it.
Do you do any of the like Toastmasters or any of those kind of things, or do
no?
you
I just
more of it?
done more events, speak more. You know, kind of trial by fire.
I mean, to me, there's no substitute for just fucking doing it. You know, I mean,
that's exactly right, man.
Except when you're learning how to be a brain surgeon, then
just not on me. Yeah.
Are you practicing? If time travel were possible, where and when would you go and why?
Oh shoot! It's got to be the World War II era, man. I think into World War II, into the 1950s. I really love that era. I mean, I've been an old soul since I've been into old hot rods, cars. I love that time frame.
It's interesting. It's a fairly common. I wouldn't even say a response to this question, but just kind of common thought process or feeling for a lot of people. Like it seems like the 50s were kind of the pinnacle of the United States in a lot of ways.
Do you think that was because of World War II? Do you think that's because of who we were when we came back, or what?
I think it's a combination of a lot of things. I mean, I think technology, there's obviously a ton of benefits from it, but there's also, I think, some overwhelming or overstimulating aspects to it that have overwhelmed our society to the point where you're seeing problems from it. And I think we're kind of right in the thick of that right now, is that, it's that paradox of choice, walking into fucking Golden Corral and there's too many things to eat and you don't know, or the menu at Cheesecake Factory is kind of that way. But
so we have too much now, but back then the choices were less.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. Is that like now you have instant access to everything, and I think that it's very difficult for people. If you think about even, how old are you?
37.
37. So I'm, almost 10 years older than you, but growing up, even at 37, there's times where, you have to self-entertain.
100%.
And I think,
I grew up in the era when the internet changed the story,
So I think that's a big part of it, is that when there's always something that can occupy your mind, you never really sit with yourself. And I think with the 50s, you had this kind of convergence of technology was still obviously way more advanced than it was in 1850, but not so far advanced to where it is now, to where it's actually counterproductive in some ways, and so I think it was kind of the best of everything at that time with technology and innocence. And
innocence is a good point.
Yeah, I mean, I think
immediately I think of the morals and values of the country as a whole were maybe a little different. I'm not saying that it was perfect by all means. I didn't grow up in that era, and there was many mistakes people make, but the morals and values has been so gray now here, and we don't know what you believe, I believe, this person believes, and so that's where it gets a little convoluted.
Yeah, and I think, it's hard to know, having not been around then. I mean, when I talk to like my parents, they feel that way, that the 50s were kind of the best part of, or the best decade of America. It was kind of before it losing its innocence, I think, with Vietnam, and it just kind of went downhill from there, I think.
Good point, losing the innocence. Yeah, we can, and also coming out of World War II, I think, from my perspective of reading the history books, and you and I talking about nothing we've lived through, but is we all went and fought a war that I think everybody was like, they attacked us, that was a good decision, and everybody still backed it for years later.
Yeah, everybody was behind it, And
when you came home, the industrial, the economy blossomed, people were having more kids.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Who knows? Do you have a favorite quote?
Improvise, adapt, and overcome.
Amen. Do you have an EDC? Now living in California, are you carrying? Do you carry anyway?
No. Yes, I do.
Of course I do. If you did carry, what would it be?
Yeah, if I did carry, I just carry Glock 19. Super simple,
Nothing tricked out on it?
Zev trigger, extended mag.
Yeah.
Yep.
No red dot or night sight.
I don't have one on there. I do have a few other ones that I could run with it, but it's just I just don't like it poking in my belly and stuff like that. So I just have like short little Trijicon night sights.
Have you gone through the process of trying to get a concealed carry there yet? Or
I have not. I have a bunch of Marine buddies out there that have said it's not that hard, especially for what I do. I mean, I don't invest in real estate out there right yet, but I will. So it'll be easy for me to say, hey, I go look at property that may be vacant. Can I have a concealed carry? And they would approve it.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of man, this is going to probably toast me, but I'm on the air of in certain things that ask for forgiveness, not for permission on certain things.
Rather be carried by 12 than or carried by 6.
It's panned out in my life, you know. I don't know.
Rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6.
I just don't want to get fucking judged.
No shit. I fucked that one up. Hey guys, I wanted to take a minute to tell you about the Mic Drop Patreon, where you can get the real mic drop experience the way it's meant to be seen. You get completely uncensored, unfiltered, and uncut episodes with nothing held back, just raw, real conversations directly from me to you. Without YouTube censorship, plus you'll see it days before anyone else, with early premieres and exclusive bonus content that you won't find anywhere else. You get behind-the-scenes access to the show, including pre- and post-show footage, with me and the guest both in studio and on location, depending on what the guest is into and what we have going on. On top of that, we've got tons of Patreon-only perks, mic drop swag, access to exclusive merch, and the chance to submit your questions to be asked at the end of every episode. You'll also get a sneak peek at our upcoming guests, so you'll know who's in the studio weeks before anyone else. We're constantly releasing new features and dropping new content based on what you want to see. For our top-tier members, you get the same mic drop challenge coin that all of my guests receive from the upcoming show, which will never, ever be for sale. We've got quarterly merch that's sent out directly to you, a monthly Zoom call with me where we talk about whatever you guys want to talk about, and an active group chat where we all shoot the shit on a daily basis. All of that for just a few bucks a month to support the show. Right now, we're also offering a 10% discount off an annual subscription, which means that you get more than a free month. I want to say thank you to everyone who has already signed up. Your support means that we get to keep bringing you the content that you love. So if you haven't yet, hit the link in the description or go to patreon.com/micdrop and join the team. I'll see you guys in there. Thank you. What are the two key components for canine success? That's effective training and proper nutrition. Fueled by Team Dog brings those two components to your family and best friend. The perfect nutritional balance that results in a higher mental acuity, energy, overall vitality, and even an improved appearance. Every product you will find in my company's store was born from the battlefield and not from the boardroom. Let my life's work help you become your dog's hero. Do you have a morning routine, like a specific, I get up at this time in the first 3 hours I do X, Y, and Z? Like, are you a morning routine?
Yeah, I'm pretty hardcore about it. I'm not one of those guys that like fucks my day up, because that would totally go against what my quote was. Everybody's adapt and overcome. Yeah, some people get hung up on that. But so no, I mean, if shit happens, shit happens. But what we're doing is every morning my objective is to wake up and I like going to the gym. I literally like going physically, because I still come from the era, talking a minute ago, dude, where people didn't have headphones on. Yeah. And you'd walk into the gym, but hey, Mike, good to see you this morning. And so it gets me talking. It gets me communicating at freaking 5 a.m. Yeah. And I like that. I like saying this guy every morning, hey, what's up, man? You have your gym friends and you just have a routine. And lifting, of course, to get that, getting a positive mental attitude. And I'm off to the day. Do whatever the fucks with me the rest of the day. I'm in a better attitude, you know?
Is that every day? Like, do you lift every day?
So usually about 5 to 6 days a week, and then Sundays are off. Yeah. And I'll do some walk around the neighborhood with my wife, cardio. I got kids, so.
Yeah. Food-wise, do you subscribe to a specific diet?
So I'm more of a macro guy, man. I just count. I think calories in. You got to understand calories. You got to understand protein. Yeah. People need to know what they need to eat. That's how you keep your waist tight.
Can you give me the synopsis on what you take in a day?
Sure. I mean, right now, depending on what I'm wanting to do with my body, I'll fluctuate. So, like right now, I'm about an 1,800 calorie diet. So it's pretty low calories for my weight. I weigh about 190, and I'll be eating about a gram per pound of my body weight. And then everything else I'll backfill with either carbs or fats.
So it's get the protein in first, and then everything else after that.
Correct. And it's not in that order, right? I'm not eating all protein for breakfast, but it's scattered across. So like, for instance, super simple meals are bison and rice, ground bison and rice, beef, low fat beef with rice or with white potatoes, sweet potatoes, simple stuff like that. Whole foods. Yeah. Whole foods are super important, and it keeps my gut uninflamed.
So, I mean, are you doing like it'll fit in the palm of your hand if you're only taking in 1,800 fucking calories?
No, I mean, I'm measuring it with a scale. Yeah, a lot of times. It depends on how strict I'm going. No, it's not a lot of food, but you can volumize it, right? Like if you get white potatoes, you can have a whole plate. But if you were to get a scoop of rice, it's only 1 cup, right? So depending on what your carb count is, what you can eat that day.
Is there a ballpark number grams of carbohydrates you take in a day?
Roughly around 150.
150.
Yeah.
And that's enough to...
And this is on more of a caloric deficit. This is on like leaning up, staying tight for summer, things like that. If I wanted to get a little, if I was doing, and I do bodybuilding style workouts now. When I was doing CrossFit, I did this and I stayed lean and I had to up my calories just because I was exhausted. So I needed to up them to 2,000, 2,500, 2,900, things like that.
Yeah.
But understanding like where you're at, and this is the biggest thing, like people, you guys, you can starve to death. If you can fucking starve to death, then you can lose weight.
Yeah.
And so you just need to eat less food.
Yeah.
Like it's a lot of times they're like, I can't lose weight.
Yeah.
But the reality is you probably lost weight when you're going through training. Like, because they put you on a caloric deficit of some sort.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to me, it was in terms of the calories you take in SEAL training, it's pretty much unlimited.
Wow.
But you're expending so many that it doesn't matter. You know? So, I mean, I didn't gain a bunch of fucking weight, even though like
working your ass off.
Well, yeah. I mean, and I would say, of course, I was also 18, which played a role because when I was in high school, I couldn't gain any fucking weight.
Same here. I was like 145 going to the Marine Corps.
Same here. Yeah. I mean, my first ID was 147.
Yeah.
And I was 5'11", but yeah, I remember every night, through SEAL training, I used to eat, we would have our three meals at the chow hall and we'd have snacks, we'd pack, fucking cans of tuna and whatever, throughout the day, or power bars and shit like in our gear and stuff. But then, after dinner, we'd come back and, do the muster up and then cut loose for the night or whatever and go back to the barracks. And there was a little convenience store. It was called the Country Store, actually. It was a little exchange. And there was like a mobile drive-through McDonald's attached to it. Like you could only drive through. There was no, you couldn't go in. And every fucking night I'd get the double quarter pounder, large fry, and then I would have a box of oatmeal cream pies and a 64-ounce leaded Gatorade every fucking night.
Damn.
And I didn't gain a fucking pound.
So you're just trying to get the calories in.
Yeah, and even then, that still wasn't enough.
No, not that age. No way. I would have been the same way. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if you know this, but like the Marine Corps boot camp, so you have the guys that come in fat, a little overweight, and what they'll put them on a calorie restriction is they'll bump them to the front of the line of the chow hall, and they'll just run, or they'll bump them to the back of the line, so they'll get in last. And they'll freaking eat the least because the drill instructors will be fucking yelling and getting them out of there. Yeah. And then the guys that need the rations, the rat rations, those guys will go up front. The small little guys that need to gain some weight, like tiny 5 foot tall guys.
Yeah, fucking Captain America, pre-machine.
Yeah, pre-machine.
Yeah.
And they'll put them in and they'll let them eat a little longer. So that's how they kind of taper it.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the biggest thing with SEAL training is you're so fucking cold all the time. You're shivering and it's just...
burning calories.
Yeah, like doing the cold plunge before it was mainstream here in America anyway. But where are you originally from?
So I was born in Wichita, Kansas, and then my folks moved to Oklahoma when I was 8 years old.
All right. So can you kind of synopsize what growing up in the southern Midwest was like?
I mean, I lived a pretty traditional middle class life, man. I mean, I rode my bike through my neighborhood. I played ball with my friends. I jumped my bike over my friends. Yeah. I hit trees with sticks. We got in fist fights at the park. I don't know. He threw rocks. That was my life. I had a pretty good life. I went to the swimming pool in the summer. Honestly, for the time, being the late 90s, early 2000s, I lived kind of like what Sandlot would be. Remember the movie Sandlot?
Oh, yeah.
Like, it was pretty traditional. I mean, I had my buddies and we hung out every day. I'd ride my bike to theirs. And at the time, video games were kind of cool, but we didn't play them all the time. Maybe N64, GoldenEye, a few things like that, but it was outside all the time.
Yeah.
I'd have a cell phone attached to me, and I could ride to the convenience store. I could ride over here. And it wasn't a small town. My parents just trusted me,
What town was it?
Edmond, Oklahoma.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
That's just north
of Oklahoma City.
Almost.
Yeah, that's where I grew up.
So I guess I'm curious, sports-wise, siblings-wise, did you play any sports? Did you have any siblings? And were there any like big ticket items that happened as a young kid?
Yeah, so I have a sibling, my sister, and so I have a younger sister. She's about 4 years younger than me. And then, what was your other question?
Did you play any sports?
Yeah, so I played sports pretty much my whole life. I played baseball. My dad coached the team, when I was in middle school and young and younger. Throughout that whole time, I still wrestled too in the winter.
Oh, no shit.
So I wrestled for like 9 years. I quit like my freshman year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was burnt. I was just done.
Yeah.
And I did cross country, track, wrestling my freshman year, and then I did cross country and track up until my senior year, and then I decided to start lifting weights.
Yeah. Wrestling wise, were you pretty competitive in the state at a young age? Like,
Yeah, I mean, I started all the way back. If I remember correctly, I started like 6 years old.
Yeah.
And so I wrestled all the way up to freshman year, off and on. You know, I was pretty competitive. I mean, growing up in Oklahoma and born in Kansas, it's kind of what you do.
Yeah, I know it. I mean, being from Iowa, it's huge.
Oh yeah,
huge
Iowa,
there.
absolutely.
In fact, I think isn't the Wrestling Museum Hall of Fame in Oklahoma?
Yes, it is. Yep.
I think Oklahoma State still has the most national wrestling titles of any college. They're from way back, but still.
Yeah,
it's a
whole nother world.
State. Yeah. Iowa, Oklahoma. The whole Midwest is kind of that way. But do you regret quitting?
No. Looking back, I got devastated when I would lose, man.
Yeah.
I would just get so hard on myself. And my dad wasn't an asshole about it. He was like, just learn. Like, just do this better. You could do this better. But I was really hard on myself. And I wished I wouldn't have been. As an adult now, I'm like, that's silly. But how can you control your emotions at that age? Maybe it's just hormones. I don't know. But, like, I was really hard on myself, and it crushed me. So it was the best for me mentally to stop doing that. You know, when I would lose, I was just so hard on myself.
Yeah. I kind of had the same thing with swimming, where I started at like 5, and I ended up taking a break like in 7th and 8th grade, and then I swam all through high school. But just that fucking window of time, like the guys that I was competitive with in 6th grade, state and even nationally, that I was competitive with now in 9th grade were just fucking destroying me. You know, the guys that had swam in 7th and 8th grade and I didn't. It was it was depressing. But I was like, fuck, I used to fucking go toe to toe with this guy. Right. Now I can't even fucking.
Yeah, no, I don't regret not doing it because I mean, where does it go? It doesn't really, unless you're going to go to UFC.
Yeah,
it's really, and then that kind of wasn't even a thing when I started.
Yeah. Do you grapple or do any combative?
Yeah, so for a while there I did. I kind of fell off. I got the blue belt bandwagon and then jumped off of jiu-jitsu, but I got like 2-stripe blue belt.
Did you find that your experience as a young kid wrestling helped significantly?
Significantly.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Just being agile and just going back to it.
Yeah.
Some things didn't, like getting on your back. That was a little weird and learning guard, but I mean, you just roll right into it.
Yeah.
And I kind of was my coming back to it kind of made me address some of those and dive into myself more of like, why was I so worried about losing? Because in jiu-jitsu, you roll with your friends all open mat and you get choked out. You win some, you lose some, you go home, you high five. Yeah. And so it made it a little easier. I wish jiu-jitsu was around when I was younger.
Fuck, me too, man.
That would have been awesome.
Yeah, same here. I see some of these kids doing it now that start at 4 or 5 years old.
I got my kids in it. My daughters.
That's awesome. Yeah, same here. I did the same shit when they were young. Were there any big things that happened as a child that either negatively or positively impacted you that stand out? Any events?
I mean, so towards the end of my high school, 17 years old, pretty big event happened before I joined the Marine Corps. I had 2 felonies and 2 misdemeanors. I'd gotten into a fight at a party, and I'd hit somebody over the head with a tire iron and caught myself a felony for assault of a deadly weapon and burglary 1. Damn. And so that was like into 2005 when I'm a senior. Yeah. And I was freaking, and I wasn't I always caveat this. I wasn't a bad kid. I just made stupid mistakes and spiraling down the drain. I was fucking partying, testing the limits. My parents are pretty conservative people. There was never alcohol in the house, church on Sundays. Like I said, I grew up pretty traditional middle class in Oklahoma. And so I was like, fuck it, I'm going to push the limits. I'm going to hang out with these guys. I'm going to do this stuff. You guys don't know what you're talking about. You never lived. And I kind of just was full of piss and vinegar, bro, and did it.
What did your parents do for a living?
My dad is an engineer. So he used to work for the nuclear power plant in Kansas. And then he got transferred to Oklahoma. And then he got transferred there. And after a year, they let him go. Oh, no shit. Yeah. And then so he started working for an energy company when we were in Oklahoma. And they took a big pay cut. That was a little tough for them, but they were like in their late 30s at the time. And anyways, so he started building houses there, and that's kind of where I got my construction background growing up. My grandfather was an entrepreneur. My dad ended up being an entrepreneur because of it. He went the college route. College is the thing. I'm an engineer, and then turns the page, and now he's an entrepreneur. Yeah, that's awesome. So he just owns a concrete company. Did you do any like construction type shit growing up where you learned all that kind of stuff? Yeah, very hands-on. Like I was on the job sites my whole entire life. Yeah. Whether it was with my grandpa or with my dad. Yeah, that's invaluable. Mm-hmm. All right, so getting into that fight, you said you weren't a bad kid, but you made bad decisions. Did you get into trouble
a lot as you were in high school? Like were you?
No, not at all. Like honestly, like it was like boom, full throttle. 17 years old.
Yeah.
I'd say I pushed the limit in 17. I got in trouble multiple times in that 1 year.
Yeah.
Maybe a little testosterone and alcohol combined probably is what I was getting myself into. Yeah. And
what was the fight about? Do you remember?
Yeah, somebody cold cocked me at a party. They brought me and my buddy. I'll tell you the story. So I go out. I'm at a party, random party. Cops were outside, so we all went inside. Whatever, fucking shut the doors. I don't even know whose house I'm at, right? You just go party at a college party. And I was in high school. I'm there. Guy says, hey, man, come outside. I need to talk to you. And I just like, hey, Mike, let's go outside. I asked my buddy, come with me. He's like, hey, did you talk to my sister? I was like, man, I don't know. I'm at a party. I'm like, I didn't do anything foul. I knew I didn't. And the next thing you know, he just freaking smokes me in the face. Yeah. We scrap around. We leave. Our dumbass goes and gets more buddies, comes back. And when we came back, we got all the tools out of the truck, smashing the windows out of the house and shit. And so one of the guys kicks the front door open. And when he kicks the fucking front door open, I see the dude that punched me in the face, and I just stroke him over the head with a tire iron. Yeah. And so I got burglary 1 for entering the premises. Didn't steal anything, so everybody knows. And then I got assault with a deadly weapon for hitting the fucking guy with a tire iron.
What were the consequences for that?
I was looking at like 6 months plus of juvenile delinquent center because I was tried as a youthful offender.
Oh, okay.
So I was still 17 when the crime was committed.
Did you fuck the guy up? Like, did it do any permanent damage?
Dude, get this. So I don't know, right? I go to jail. So to rewind a bit, we get jumped. We go over to the fucking truck to go get the buddies. All we did was went to the truck to grab the tire irons. We come back to the house and we didn't go get the buddies yet. We came back to the house and they shut all the doors. They locked the doors. And so that's when we busted the windows out. And they were like, fuck you, blah, 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 come fight. Let's do it. If you're going to jump us, let's fight. They don't say anything, lock all the doors, kind of shut everything in. And then we leave to go get the buddies. When we leave to go get more buddies, because we're all pissed off and drunk, that's when they called the cops because we had busted the windows.
Oh, okay.
So the cops show up, like taking reports and everything, and then the cops leave. Well, that perfect timing. We come back with the buddies, and the cops are right around the corner. They make the call. So after I hit the dude with the tire iron, we start to scrap, or I kind of take him down. And then I turn around, and the cops are freaking holding me at gunpoint and like, get the fuck on the ground. So it was like that. Wow. Yeah.
So you have no idea what happened?
So, no, I don't know what happened. I think he just got smoked over the head. He's fine. It didn't happen.
Didn't put him in a coma or anything.
No, but I go back to school, not knowing this. I go to jail, and then I go to county. They ship me from Edmond to county. And I freaking go back to high school, get back in. Everybody knows about the story, right? It's all blown up. All the buddies were there. Other people at this high school were at the party. And the rumors were starting to go around that I had killed him, that he was fucking comaed, that he had been dead. And I was like, oh, fuck, my life's over. I mean, it really took...
The Marilyn Manson extra rib story.
I was like, this is horrible. He's dead, dude. Yeah, like a fake story. Exactly. Yeah. And it started, the rumors spread. Yeah. And but that really scared me at that time because I was like, that one decision, one stupid ass decision.
Yeah. So I want to tell you about this company SLNT that was kind enough to send me a couple of their products, and they've come in handy. A disturbing new way to steal your car is reportedly on the rise worldwide, and most of us don't know just how easy it is to become a victim. In fact, in the next 20 seconds, one of you could be the next target. It's been reported that in 2023 alone, over 1 million cars in the United States were stolen, and in many cases, it simply looked like an owner was getting into their car. To prove how easy it was, a UK reporter tested it earlier this year. All he needed was 2 small devices, a device no bigger than a tablet and a cell phone, to copy the car key's fob, even if it was inside a house, in less than 20 seconds. He was able to break into a luxury SUV and drive away. This type of keyless theft is one of the reasons why so many car owners wake up to find their cars simply gone, taken immediately to chop shops or shipped out to foreign countries, never to be seen again. The crazy thing is this isn't just limited to your car. Similar technology can be responsible for data theft and could damage your phones and laptops too. To me, there's no other option. You must try to protect yourself, and the best way to start is with SLNT. Silence Faraday products help block all incoming and outgoing signals so no one can get their hands on your information. From key fobs to phones to laptops, simply place your device inside, close the sleeve, and that's it. You're off the grid and safeguarded from unauthorized access. Go silent today at slnt.com/micdrop to save 15% off plus free shipping on qualifying orders. Stay ahead of what's coming and help secure your privacy today. Again, that's slnt.com/micdrop for 15% off and free shipping on qualified orders. slnt.com/micdrop. I use the products and I love them. Well, so what happened legally with you from that point?
So right there, boom, I have 2, not convicted, but charged felonies. And then I have 2 misdemeanors for destruction of property with my buddies. And I'm just going through high school, and I always wanted to join the military. So rewind that. Like I always wanted to be in the military. I was the dude reading the military books, the Army book. I wanted to be an Army Ranger because I wanted to jump out. That was my thought at the time. And I was looking at Navy SEAL books. I had it all. I grew up watching the Arnold movies. I grew up watching the freaking Rambo movies. I mean, I was hard up for fucking military stuff.
Yeah.
Playing guns in the woods with my friends.
Did 9/11 sway or impact that at all?
It made it more. Yeah. I was in. I was ready to go. I was in 9th grade. As a freshman.
So that kind of heightened your sense of wanting to do that. So now, fast forward, you want to join the military, but you're faced with 2 potential felonies.
Yep.
If you're charged as what did you say?
Youthful offender.
Youthful offender. I mean, is that just as a minor?
It's like a minor that's turned into because my birthday's in May, so I allegedly committed the crime before then. Yeah. So I was going to turn 18.
Okay.
So they couldn't throw me in like GP.
Adult, but
yeah, well, the good thing is I wasn't going to go to general population. I wasn't going to go to prison. I wasn't going to go to jail.
Yeah.
Or stay in county for X amount of time. I was going to go to like a juvenile delinquent center where it's like a boost kids up. But at that time, and I don't know how that all shit works because it didn't pan out that way. But what happens is like you're 17, then you get older. They're not going to keep you there. They're going to move you to the bigger boys stuff.
So how did that impact your path in? Did it?
So it was going to prevent it. I mean, I was fucking scared. I was like, this is not going to help. I was working construction that whole summer for my dad, and I was working with one of his guys, and kind of an older mentor, trim carpenter, and I was trimming houses for my dad. And I was just like talking to him about all the shit I was going through. I had a lot of stuff on my plate, and he's like, dude, you should totally join the Marine Corps. He's like, I tried, and this guy used to ride bulls, so he had a broken jaw, couldn't get in after that. And he's like, yeah, you should totally join the Marine Corps. I was like, fuck, okay, I'll go check it out. And so I went to the recruiter. He's like, I told him what's going on. I said, hey, let me tell you, I got freaking all these things going on. He's like, okay.
Were you convicted?
No, just during trial.
Okay.
Just during it. So I just went to the recruiter's office and I told him, hey, I am in the process of being, having a trial for this. I'm being charged. And he's like, okay, well, we'll see what we can do. And that recruiter happened to be he's originally from Oklahoma, but he's stationed there. He was a Staff Sergeant Shadwell. If you're out there, I would love to connect. And I don't even know if he's a Staff Sergeant anymore, but that's who it was. He said his dad used to be the Chief of Police of Edmond. And I was like, oh my God, this works out fucking awesome. So he goes with my attorney to the judge, and they go multiple times. And then I stand up in front of the judge and basically like, Austin's going to join the Marine Corps and he's going to do Marine Corps infantry. Here he goes. And if he does that, he can have an honorable discharge. So it's like old school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was the best thing for me, man, because you know what would happen if I got in a juvenile delinquent center? You're going to get in more fights at 17. I'm going to defend myself and spiral down the drain.
Yeah. You'd be just in the hamster wheel of the fucking correctional system.
And that's not like my morals and values, even though at the time I'd fucked up, it wasn't like I was a complete throwaway of a kid, you know what I mean? And that's what I think a lot of people struggle with at that age anyway.
Yeah.
Marine Corps is the best place for me at that time.
Yeah, it sounds like it. All right, so you go through boot camp. Was it what you expected? Like what was your...
I had zero expectations, honestly.
Yeah.
I came in with the shaved head. I had shaved my head already before. And so I'd had shaved head all through high school. But like going into it, I just was ready to roll. Like whatever it was, I was just ready.
Yeah.
I was glad it wasn't juvie.
Yeah, no shit. I mean... Did you find it challenging?
Mentally challenging. Yeah, mentally challenging.
Yeah.
Physically, I was the first class PFT, and I actually got meritorious promotion in my platoon for the best PFT score.
Oh no shit.
Yeah, I got PFC.
Yeah, that's good. In terms of going in with that kind of deal of, hey, if you keep your nose clean for 4 years, then it gets expunged, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Did they direct? Like you have to go in and you have to be infantry, or like did they?
No, they don't direct any of that. And I thought that's how they had structured the deal. But the reality is they're not going to know if I get out with an honorable discharge or nothing. Nobody's going to keep up with that shit. So it really was like if Austin signs up and ships off to the Marines and he goes through with it and goes to boot camp, then we're going to expunge it. Yeah. So and then they literally expunged it like it was later on.
Yeah. So what did you go in as MOS wise?
0352. That's an anti-tank assaultman, a tow gunner.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
So you go through boot camp. And then you went to some sort
School of Infantry.
Oh, okay.
So the Marine Corps, you go boot camp 3 months, then you go home, 10 days, then you check into either School of Infantry or your like training facility for if you're going to be a pogue.
Okay. So you go through the full infantry training and then do specialized tow shit afterwards?
Yeah, so that you go through, so SOI is a combination of like infantry training, like 0311 shit, like crunchy stuff, lineman stuff, and then it's also a combo of like your skill set. So the beginning of it, the first month basically is all infantry skills, and then the second month is like your specialized skill. Yeah. So because you got 0331, you got machine gunners, mortarmen, you got at the time you had 51s, which were small, and then you had tow gunners, which are 52s. Okay. So you had all four of them there, and then 11s, which is just linemen.
Yeah. Any issues or trouble in School of Infantry? Man,
I loved it. Honestly, like boot camp and the Marine Corps was like, if you got in a fist fight, you got in a fist fight. You just did your thing. You handled your business, and no problems whatsoever. I like that was what I needed in my life, man. Yeah. I needed some freedom. I needed to get out of my hometown. I needed to be surrounded with other dudes that would scrap or wouldn't, and then had the like-minded attitude. Yeah. And I needed to be checked by a higher power, which was either your School of Infantry instructor or drill instructor, and that's what I needed. Yeah, guidance.
And so after all of that, then where did you go?
Yeah, so I was reserve. So I go back when you were a reservist. I had signed up reserve, which I'm glad that they let me do that at the time. But I signed up reservist. I went back home. You check back into your duty station at your reserve station, and that's why I went 0352. So when you're reserve, you can only have certain options. I wanted infantry for sure, but 0352 was the only closest drill unit, right? So you usually have to go with an MOS that's close to your hometown, or you have to move or travel. And so that's why I went tow gunner, or I would have gone like 31 machine gunner or 11. Yeah. But you go back home, you check in within 5 days to your reserve unit. I check into my reserve unit. I remember checking in with a few other guys, boom. And then like less than 3 months later, or I start drill, you do drill once a month. And I was like, oh, this is fucking cool. I go back to construction. I'm like, that was a wild experience. It was in the military. Now I'm back doing construction. Yeah. And then I just check in once a month. That's how reserves are. But this was in 2006. And that's probably why, to recap, why they allowed me to go in like that. They were fucking handing people waivers left and right because George W. Bush was ready to do the whole, the push, the surge. Yeah. And so, little like 3 months, 4 months later, our unit's getting activated, and then we're mobilizing to leave.
And what was that process like? Like from the time they say, hey, we're getting activated and the spin up, like how fast did it happen?
So it probably happens within 45, 60 days. Like, hey, let everybody know, here it goes. A couple months, we're gone. Like, and where you go, you're not going directly to Iraq. You're going to start training. So when you're reservist, they start sending you through the whole rigmarole, making sure that you're ready to leave. Like the Marine Corps is basically grading your reserve unit to see if you're qualified and ready to roll.
And so I guess, where did you go for training from?
We went to, I feel like we went all over the place. So first, Oklahoma, we went to Louisiana. We connected with Weapons Company. Louisiana dudes, we shipped out with them to Lejeune. We trained in Lejeune for a long time. I want to say like 2 months. And then from Lejeune, we went to Mojave Viper in California in 29 Palms. And then we trained there for 2 months. And then we deployed to Iraq. And then we were there for 7 to 8 months. And then we came home and we spent another month in Lejeune demobbing.
And then we'll get into Iraq in a minute, but then from there, how long was the time period from when you got back from Iraq until you went to North Africa?
Like 4 months.
No shit.
Yeah, 4 or 5 months. Turnaround. Yeah, because you have in the reserves, they sell you on in the National Guard, you have 1 week in a month and 2 weeks of summer. Yeah. And so your 2 weeks of summer is when they usually do some kind of a deployment. Yeah. And that's where we ended up going, but it ended up being like a month. It wasn't 2 weeks.
I got you. All right, so taking a few steps back, you do, months and months of training stateside. You're getting ready to go to Iraq. Was there a kind of a consensus on where you were going specifically within country and what the goal was?
I mean, me being like a freaking E3, I'm getting all sorts of bullshit word all the time. So I'm just, we're going to be here. We didn't even know we were going to Afghanistan or Iraq.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we didn't even know until like a month before we deployed.
And what were you thinking at the time? Were you nervous?
I was nervous, but I didn't have a wife, didn't have kids, didn't have any bills. I mean,
you're 19?
I'm 19 years old. Yeah. 18, 19. I turned, what'd I do? I was in 18. I turned 19 in SOI, and I turned 20, if I remember correctly, like right before Iraq.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm 19. Yeah.
As it got closer and ultimately when you went over there, was there ever this is what we're here to do. This is why we're here, where we're at. This is what we're going to try to accomplish.
Oh yeah, 100%. So things shifted around and things got real tight. The message and the word got real tight once we got to Palm Beach Viper. So when we're 2 months training in the desert, that's when the battalion commander and everybody started tightening up and really understanding what our mission was. And so us as tow gunners, what we ended up getting to do was there's really no bastard place to put us. I mean, because there's no freaking tanks to blow up. We're not really running and gunning like we were in Fallujah in 04 and 05. So what we ended up getting chosen to do was battalion commander and battalion sergeant major's personal security detail. So we were what's called jump platoon. And so we were just VIP security for them the whole time. Wherever they went, we went, what we did, everything, walk, talk. And so we immediately had to start training to be more of like a small organization of a VIP service.
Yeah.
And so we went from thinking that we were going to be more of a CAP platoon or a weapons company platoon to immediately shifting to being more of a dismount, freaking VIP, doing totally different stuff than what basic infantry, Marine Corps, or CAP platoon, weapons company type people were doing.
And so did that have you going all over the country? I mean, were you, or was it?
We did some training in some certain spots. We got to do some high level training at a place called Darcy Course. So we got to do some amazing stuff there. Probably not PETA approved. You probably know.
Yeah. Are you talking about up in Arkansas?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was an instructor there, and probably almost the time you were there, but we were working with Army guys. But
yeah, there were some Air Force dudes there, PJs, and then there were some Army guys there, and then our whole unit somehow was able to go there.
Yeah.
I think our battalion commander's a badass. He's a 3-star general now.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Once you got in country, having that as your mission, did you end up going all over Iraq?
All over. Yeah. Oh yeah. That was, and I was so glad because you could get a boring, scared battalion commander, or you can get one that's gun ho and wants to do some shit.
Yeah.
And we got one that was gun ho. Yeah. He was awesome.
So where did you first land?
Boom. So we go from, where do we ship out of? Gosh, we flew out of California. Yeah. Boom. There. We went to Kuwait. With Kuwait, we went to Al-Assad. Al-Assad, we stayed there for a couple days, we get organized, everybody regroups, and then we start taking Ospreys out to the dam. And we were in Haditha.
How many of you were there?
Whole battalion. Yeah, I don't even know our whole battalions. So 3rd Battalion, 23rd Marines.
About how many people is it?
Gosh, I don't even know. Probably 1,000 people. I don't know what it means in a battalion. So I'm just a little 19-year-old Lance Corporal worried about stupid shit.
But so the whole focus or goal was to do VIP style protection.
That's what right? So our section was only about 20 of us.
Okay. Yeah. So the 20 of you bounced all over the place
with him, battalion commander. Yes.
Gotcha.
Yep.
And he went all over the fucking place.
He went all over because he's checking on all the other FOBs, combat outposts. Yeah. We were stationed in the city of Iraq, or I'm in the city of Haditha. Okay. And then we would go check all the line companies. We'd go check the whole AO that he was in. His job. He did his job. And we would with him the whole time.
Were you wearing civilian clothes kind of thing? Or
No, we're still full Marine Corps.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yep. And, we had to actually be more Marine Corps than anybody because we represented, like when we'd go check FOBs and they're out there with low command, they're going to start not shaving and kind of fucking go a little rogue, right? Lord of the Flies. Yeah. And so when he'd show up, we'd try to give them word, hey, we're coming out there, dude, because it's your buddies, Yeah. And so we'd come out and we always had to be shaved, clean cut, everything had to be ready. Because we did multiple operations where freaking generals were coming in, DOD officials, a lot of politicians, and then we did one tour or one situation. We had to take a Navy commander from Haditha, Iraq, all the way to BIOP, which is Baghdad International Airport in the Green Zone. Yeah, and so we did that all through freaking our 4 trucks.
Oh no shit!
Yeah, it was cool. We got to stay in Ramadi. I went through BIOP, so I got to see more of Iraq than most people do in just their little AO. If they only had one deployment, I got to see a lot more because I was with him.
Yeah. Were there any hairy instances of excursions that you guys went on or protective details where shit went sideways and you guys had to respond?
So I feel like we were always getting some small pop shots, but it wasn't like crazy. We would run across IEDs, so a lot of tier 1 IED sites. I would end up being a dismount, so I'd get out of the vehicle. We'd have to sweep it on foot. So we did a lot of sweeping in a V formation. So what that is for those watching that don't know, the truck's going down the road. The front truck's a 7-ton. The back 3 are up armored Humvees. You're going to split out of the dismount in the front, and then you're going to create a V formation farther in front of it, like a funnel, so you can find any trigger man wires, any kind of det cord, anything like that. And so we would do a bunch of that, just like safety measures. Yeah. And so when we got to Iraq, it was still pretty hot, cooling down, and people were pretty cautious. So we had to do all these things. I mean, we were running people off the road. Everybody had to get out of their cars when we came by, like start their car, get out of their car so that they weren't a V-bed. And then the rules of engagement changed throughout our process. We started pulling back. We started easing up, which made it really nerve-wracking for us because now we started running with traffic. We started moving out of the city. We're trying to like give back Iraq to the IPs and the Iraqi police.
Were there instances where you guys actually were ambushed or took any, excuse me.
We never got into like any freaking one-on-one firefight combat. No, there were situations where we had to have EOD come blow a freaking IED up that we would have hit.
Yeah. And you know. In your entire battalion, do you know if were there?
There was some contact. One guy, unfortunately, this is fucked up, but the guy at one of the combat outposts, there was some random dumbass going to the gate, and you know, I don't know how the fuck you don't know that we've been here at this place for so long, and he unfortunately the driver didn't get wasted, but the other guy got wasted with a 240. Oh, no, and so we had to go over there and kind of do the whole, you know, our do the right thing because we're battalion commander. So he's over there checking, talking, what's going on? How'd this happen? Yeah. Dude gets freaking buddy's head wasted off because he's just going. He's like, oh, I didn't know that this wasn't a road I could go in. I was like, dude, you've been flagged down. Everybody did everything. So
that's fucking brutal.
Yeah.
And you were there for, you said 7 months, 7 months?
Yeah. We did a pretty cool operation with Task Force 16. So we got to work with some Green Beret guys or ODA. I don't even know. That's all I was briefed on. Task Force 16, I was in the room, you know, and I'm little Lance Corporal Hancock with the bell-fed machine gun on my lap. I'm like, let's fucking go. This is awesome. Yeah. And they weren't super stoked because they've dropped in on like Blackhawks, brought their own dogs, brought their own detainees, and then we made them load up in the back of the 7-ton with me. And I'm like, hey, how long you guys been in?
That's fucking classic.
So we did a full raid with them and Spooky, the bird, the C-130 Spectre gunship. Yeah. So that was pretty cool. We got to do all sorts of cool stuff like that.
Shit. How did that raid go?
It went perfect. It went picture perfect. I mean, working with those guys was super simple. They had a target house that they wanted to hit, and our battalion commander says, yeah, you're an RAO. We're going to be with you. Yeah. And so they weren't super stoked about that, but they respected that he wanted to. So we provided, our line companies provided outer security, that we hit other houses too. And we got being, you know, the battalion commander's VIP basically. We got to go with them through that. And we worked with them on that raid.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
Can you walk us through that at all? Or?
Yeah, so super simple. I mean, we set up, we're on the freaking MSR, and we're on the main service road, and we stage way outside of the town. This is a small fucking podunk town in the middle of nowhere in Iraq. And we stage out there. We create dispersion. We drop the birds in between. There's about 3 freaking Blackhawks drop in. We got dogs coming out. We got tier 1 operator guys coming out. And then the whole mission basically was to load up and get in the trucks with us, which, like I said, they weren't like, this fucking sucks. This is like anti-special ops shit. Yeah. But that was like what was going to happen, I guess. I don't know. I'm not part of that decision making.
Yeah. No bad shit happened on that one.
No crazy bad stuff. Just they got their guy. They got him. And we took that detainee and we rolled him up. Yeah.
But you can't bitch about that.
No. I can't bitch. I mean, there was a long time though, and I talked about this before on another podcast. But there was a long time that I felt like inadequate for not fucking just having the traditional gunfight. Yeah. As a Marine, I'm like, oh, I feel like I need a better story, and I feel like guys can constantly either deploy for that story, or they feel like they need to up their story or bullshit their story or feel inadequate because they don't have that. But the reality is, man, the cards fell where they fell, and I'm here. I have a beautiful family. It is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think the tough part is, between movies and pop culture and, decades of kind of this aura that's built around the military and different missions that take place, is that there's like an expectation for that, and I agree, like, there's a lot of instances of guys that, some of the best platoons, at least from my experience in the SEAL teams, really, really shit hot SEAL platoons that end up having to do exercises in Guam, while guys who maybe, this platoon's maybe not as high speed or maybe not as capable ends up, doing a 6-month just barn burner in fucking Ramadi, it's like, and it has nothing to do with who any of those guys are. I mean, it's pure, just scheduling and luck and what have you, So.
Yeah, but I think as a man, especially, somebody that joins the Marine Corps, joins the teams, you want to test yourself, right? I mean, that's kind of what you're getting into. I didn't join the freaking infantry Marine Corps because I got a signing bonus for college, you know what I'm saying? Like, especially not in 2006. Yeah. So you want to test yourself. You're like, fuck, am I made of what I think I'm made of? And when the freaking bullets start flying, how am I going to do? Am I going to piss my pants, or I'm going to lay some fire down? And so you want to, you want to test that. And when you don't get tested, but you're constantly stressed out the whole time, you're constantly ready, you're constantly worried. That's what I saw a lot of guys struggle with when they got back.
Really?
Yeah, they're still high strung, right? Yeah. You're still on alert, watching for the IEDs, getting people out of their car. Fuck, they're all just that overglaze of stress that still follows people. Some of those guys become cops. They become SWAT guys, and I think that's where some of the problems come in there too, because they don't really address that they're trying to get that action still.
Were any of the guys that you were with that you know of fall into that category and had problems? Yeah. Really?
Yeah, personally. I'm not me myself. I did have my own struggles. Yeah. Weirdly, like coming back, like I still have my own struggles. I shouldn't say weirdly. So if anybody y'all have struggles, it's not weird. But what I'm saying is the guys, they get back and they'll never be as good as they once were. You know, they're like, I went to Iraq and I freaking had all this control, whether they were a staff sergeant, a sergeant, even a corporal, you know, you have a job. You're in charge of, you know, thousands of dollars at that time, maybe millions of dollars of equipment and men. You're leading people, and then you fucking rotate back down to the world. And I think that's what people struggle with. They're like, I was high stress, high environment. I want to do more. Yeah. And then they sit the office chair, or they sit behind the desk at the local fast food spot, and they're like, this is all that I'm meant to do now, and they just want to eat a bullet.
Yeah, I agree. I think 100% is that it boils down to purpose. Yeah. You know, and any guy that I've seen struggle with anything that he was a part of or saw or anything overseas, you know, there's a ton of resiliency if somebody is focused on building a business or a family or whatever thing that they're into. Like, I mean, it can be a fucking hobby for that matter.
Yeah, we need a new mission. Yeah. You got to have a new mission. Anybody.
Well, yeah, and I think there's such a, I wouldn't even say a identity. It is your identity, you know, when you're a professional soldier. And I think the higher up within the ranks of the military or unit-wise, you know, the more prestige that's involved, the harder it is.
I believe that.
That once that's gone, if that's not replaced with something that you're equally proud of, then you struggle with it, you know. And I think it's sad that there's not more of a focus put on, you know, when guys transition out is finding your why, you know, because I think that's the biggest problem.
Yeah, 100%. And then going back to the cops too, I mean, I just think that they were just aggressive coming out of what we were doing. You can't implement the same processes and procedures.
It's totally different.
And they may have or may have not, you know, implemented those kind of things into the.
Yeah. Did you know any guys that did?
They got in trouble a few times. Yeah, I got some buddies that are actually a friend of mine's in Dallas PD or Fort Worth PD. Really? Yeah, and then I have another couple of buddies that were just like local cops, but then they moved up in like more of the drug
Can you give us an example of something that?
I think just communicating with them afterwards, and I kept in communication with these guys pretty close. You know, right after we got back, and then they'd go back to their job being a cop, and they would struggle. Which is freaking roughing up people. Just like you would a detainee. You grab them, you tag them, you bag them, you move them to the truck and stuff. Yeah. And you can't do that with fucking, you know, some Joe Blow on the street because he's at a 7-Eleven causing problems.
Yeah. That reminds me of the, just this past weekend, the Tyreek Hill. Did you see that?
I didn't see it, no.
It's pretty fucked up. I mean, you know, to me, there's both sides, or there's two sides of every story, or really there's three sides. There's each side and then what actually happened. But I mean, it's all on video. And I mean, I don't know. I heard that it was 20 miles. I think he was doing 20 over, and they pulled him over, and he pulled right over, and, you know, but I think rolled his window back up or barely rolled it down. And, you know, the car was still running and it was loud. And you know, they start knocking and saying like, hey, roll the fucking window down. And he didn't. So they yanked the door open. And I mean, to me, he wasn't really being a dick. I mean, he was being a little uncooperative. But to me, that's where, you know, it's just a tough fucking environment where, you know, like if it were me as a cop, like I don't know how well I would handle it either. You know,
same.
You know, if we're being honest, like I would have a hard time. You know, when you're constantly in an environment where, you know, you may lose your life and you're dealing with people that may be trying to take it, you know, I think it's hard to deal with uncooperative people that are being dicks or whatever. On the same token, I think you have to be able to deal with that because it's not against the law to be an asshole, you know. And so, like, if you watch the video, to me, it's like, man, the shit wasn't warranted, plain and simple. You know, like it just wasn't. You know, you can be frustrated that a guy's being a dick, but to me, that's the one thing that I feel like kind of has to be separated, you know, by being a cop is that you have to be able to sift through some of that. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying I could even do it. I probably couldn't.
That's why I'm not a cop.
Yeah,
Man.
I mean,
No way.
My hat's off to those guys
100%.
for doing that and putting up with that shit. Because I really don't think I could fucking do it, and I would get in trouble probably, and I know that, you know. So
Same.
but it just, to me, it's just unfortunate that shit like that happens, because it just doesn't solve any problems, and it just makes things worse on both sides, you know. But
Yeah, 100%.
but anyway, so all right, I guess before we get into the heavy transition stuff, you came back. You were only back for a few months. Was the stuff in North Africa just a training trip?
Just a full training operation. Yeah, we worked with the Moroccan Army. We worked with a few other
How were they?
operations. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, I think it was really good for me. So a few of the guys that I know got out right when we got back to Iraq. They already had orders getting out, and then we got back from Iraq. They freaking check out. The bad thing about the reserves is that you check out, you're gone. You're just a ghost. And I know dudes that had struggles with that. I know one personally, a good, really, really good friend of mine, like a brother. And I didn't even know he was going through this, because he just got out right after we got back. Moves on, and then just rotates right back into the civilian world, where he doesn't fit in. He feels lost, no brothers, nobody there. And as you know, it's just totally different environment. And so I myself went back home and started working again, and then we go to Africa and working with the African Army. I mean, it was awesome. It was the best thing for me. Going back, like the reason I liked it was because it's kind of like Mexico. It's kind of like Iraq. They're all speaking Arabic and French. And so it kind of helped, because we would go out we got liberty. We got like 5 days of liberty when we went to Agadir, North Africa, and Morocco. And it kind of dialed off, because you have Middle Eastern people similar to Iraq speaking Arabic, and now you're in civilian clothes. So that was something I wasn't familiar with, right? I was only familiar with like, boom, kit right into the combat zone. That's what that environment's like. Some of you guys, maybe tier 1 operators like you guys, or C-team guys, you guys get to get a little bit more of the civilian side. You get to wear different clothes. We're like, you got to do it by the books, and then you rotate back home, and you're like, that's what Iraq's about. But Iraq was just that, because that's how you were there.
Yeah.
You know?
So in Morocco, like, did you go out and eat, or like what did you do on the
we had Libo, like I said, for 5 days. We did a full month there, and then 5 days of liberty. And so we went out to eat, drank beer there, had fun, went to the beach, everything.
Anybody get in trouble?
Nah, not nobody I knew. Yeah, thank God.
Anything cool happen?
You just did cool operations work. I mean, simultaneous tank operations. I mean, we were in Humvees, so we went back to cap platoon style. We went back to weapons company. You know, we had our tows up there. We got to do some tow shoots. We did. They have like old M60 tanks.
Yeah.
They have all of our old equipment, and so they're rolling their tanks next to the Abrams, and we're running around in Humvees, and that's pretty cool. It was like you know, traditional warfare. It's like almost like World War II, but in the desert.
Yeah.
It kind of feels.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, Erwin Rommel shit.
What was your impression of them competency-wise as a fighting force compared to any other experiences you had?
I don't know. I mean, that operation was fine. I think that it's Morocco.
Yeah.
They're not a big country. And I think they've been one of the United States allies for a long period of time. And I think that they bought a lot of equipment from the United States. And so it's a great training ground for the United States. I don't know that they're super capable of combat.
Like, did you get to know any of the guys that, like, your counterparts?
No, not really. They basically mesh us up, and we slept in the field. We literally slept in tents for that whole month, and then we just met with them when we were in vehicles, and then we got told what our sectors were.
Yeah. Was it hot as fuck when you were there?
Yeah, hell yeah. It was super hot. They were intense, and fucking, it's just
Does
hot.
it get cold there? Fuck, I mean.
In Morocco, I don't know.
Yeah.
It was cold when I was in Iraq, though.
Yeah, no, it gets freezing.
It was cold when I was in
sure
Iraq.
it gets cold there at some point.
It's got to, right?
I hope so.
It's a Sahara Desert. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. All right, so you come back from that. At that point, how many years had gone by since you joined?
So I was about out. So about 3 years had gone by.
Okay.
Yeah, through training, through gaps, like 3-4 months here. You know. Yeah.
And so was your plan all along was to get out and do your own thing, or
no?
what?
So funny going back. Like if I were to look back at it, my parents are the ones that convinced me to go reserve. I wanted to go in. I didn't give a shit. I was going to go active duty. My dad's a real advocate for college, like most people's parents are. College degree. They looked at the military. They grew up in the generation where their parents were watching Vietnam on TV. So that generation didn't look at war the same as I did. Even though they were upset with 9/11, you don't want your son going to freaking war. It just is what it is. Especially, you know, traditional family values. They know what's going to happen. And so they convinced me. He's like, here's the deal. My dad's like, here's the deal. You join the Marine Corps, fine. I support you 100%. But will you just go reserve? You can always go active duty if you want to.
Yeah.
And you can come back home and go to college. And so he put that fear in me, and so that fear made me make that decision.
Yeah.
And I struggled because I regretted that. I was like, I should have just gone to the fleet. Should have, could have, would have, whatever. It's over now. I did what I did. But by the time I was out of the Marine Corps, doing what I did in the reserves, I was fucking ready to get out.
Yeah.
I was burnt on it. And I probably because I was just a arrogant 19, 20-year-old that didn't like authority at the same time still.
Yeah.
But there's pros and cons with the reserve. And this isn't a hack on anybody, but this is just the truth. When you're deployed with some people that were managers at a fucking Walmart. And then you're deployed with people that may own a law firm.
Yeah.
So you have very high caliber people that you meet and you're like, this motherfucker's smart as shit. He's a sergeant. Like he legit has a company making money on the outside. Like these are just great. He's a great person. He has a skill set. And then you have complete fucking turds that have civilian jobs that want authority.
Yeah.
And so that's the difference. And when you're fleet Marine, when you're an active duty Marine or any other military branch, that's all you are. And so when you take everybody in a mixing pot, that's where reserves are pros and cons with them. Yeah. You know, you could send a battalion of reserves out there and they'll figure it out because there's got to be somebody that owns a trade company. There's somebody that owns an HVAC company or works for one.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different people in different training. Some are going to college to get degrees, masters. So it's a cool experience, but I wasn't ready to go, okay, now this is great. I should go full time.
Yeah.
But when I got out, I still missed it. A couple months later, I met my wife now and I looked at getting into the Air National Guard and going JTAC because there was a local one. And I was like, they're like, you're going to be gone for about 2 years of training off and on. And my wife was like, no, I didn't sign up for that.
Yeah.
That's not what we're doing.
Yeah. So with, I guess with that decision to say, okay, I'm not doing that, then like, what was the plan from, when you got out? Like, did you just go back to working for your dad? I
struggled. Like, that's where I struggled. Yeah. I went back working for my dad. I mean, I really never had a job. I had a job during that time that I was 17 and I was pending trial.
Yeah.
I worked for a Mexican restaurant serving chips for 3 days. And I was like, fuck this. I go back to concrete work. I'd rather pull rebar all day.
Yeah.
So I went back and was literally doing concrete work. I started running skid steers, backfilling, running equipment, welding, more like framing stuff, everything you can do. Like we were doing it. Like, cause my dad was like, we need somebody for that. That's you. That's you. That's you. And I'm like, okay. So we did it.
Did you already know how to do all that shit?
I was learning through it.
Yeah.
Not all of it. No. I had pretty good motor skills. So, I grew up riding equipment with my grandfather and everything. So, I knew I wasn't intimidated by any of it. I learned to weld doing that shit. I did a little bit of welding in Votech. So, in high school, I went to auto body and collision.
Yeah.
And I learned how to like MIG weld there. So, I just kind of applied that to stick and I started doing more structural stuff.
So, at what point did you kind of get the bug to do your own thing and walk us through from, when you're just being the jack of all trades and doing what needs to get done to where you are now? Like how did that path go?
So that's where I think my lowest low was really, man, was where I was like, I got out of the Marine Corps and I didn't have any purpose anymore. You just talked about it. Like you need purpose, man. You need purpose. You need a mission. And I felt so lost. There'd be times I would leave at like 6 a.m. and I'd go backfill a job I'd go do dirt work with a skid steer and I would do that until like 7 and then I'd drive back home and it would be an hour drive and I would be taking a gooseneck and a flatbed and, doing the whole 9 yards. And during that time, you have a lot of time when you're sitting in equipment and you're moving one dirt pile to fill in a hole. And all day long you're rotating, you're doing dirt. And I'm like, this is what my fucking life looks like. That was when I had this epiphany, like, this is it. Like, this sucks. Because even though my dad owns a company, my dad's just not one of those guys that's like, son, you could run this one day, you could do this, you can cultivate you up. And that's good. I think it's good. He wasn't trying to push it on me. But at the same time, I didn't feel like there was any growth for me. And so I just I got more and more frustrated with like, I felt like I did really cool shit. There was a time in the Marine Corps where I was shaking hands with Senator McCain during his presidential election campaign in Iraq on a soccer field with a belt-fed machine gun in my lap, and I have a photo of it. And then I'm over here running a skid steer, getting an energy drink at 7-Eleven. I felt like a fucking loser, to be honest, man. I just like it was the worst. And I'm telling my girl this, who's my wife now. And I went to the gym all the time still. I was a huge gym advocate ever since like I was 17, like I told you guys. And I had a buddy at the gym. He's like, you know everything about building. You've been doing it. Why don't you build houses? And I was like, bro, what about a company? It's all these things, all these what if this happens, all this
all
bullshit.
The reasons you can't.
I come up with all of them. And he looks at me, he's like, basically like, shut the fuck up. You're making up excuses. And I'm like, okay. So I'm asking and I'm asking. And I'm listening to him. These guys are like about 10 years older than me. He had a successful real estate business. My other buddy had a successful landscaping company. And he's like, you should do it. Yeah, totally. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, okay, what's the next step? So I go to my dad and say, hey, I'm going to start building houses. I want to start building houses. Buddy at the gym says I can do it. My dad being an engineer, my dad's an advocate and an entrepreneur. He's on both sides of it. but also a father.
Yeah.
So he's like, but he's a pessimistic person. So when it comes to it, he's like, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen. And I'm like, fucking scared. You know what I mean? Like all these things could happen.
Thanks for the support, Dad.
Thanks for the support. But he's like, you can do it. And then you're like, well, which fucking way are we going? You know? But anyways, well, he's an engineer. You got to think, everybody that's an engineer, their whole job is to find failure in things, right? I don't want the fucking roof to fall in. I don't want the bridge to collapse. So where's the pinnacle point that this thing breaks? And that's what they're looking for. And why does it break?
Yeah, it's like they work in worst case scenarios and making sure they don't happen.
And a lot of them live in that. Like they live in worst case scenarios. They're very, frugal, paranoid people sometimes.
Yeah.
But he's also a very hands-on, crafty guy. So that's the benefit. He's like, okay, go ahead and do it. So he ended up co-signing for me on my first lot. It helped me co-sign it because I couldn't afford it. And I was still working for him at the time. So I'd go check the job, like when I got back from jobs or in between jobs, if I was in town working for him. And I built a house, a spec house, a house for sale. That's what that is. It's a speculatory investment. Essentially, you build a house from ground up. And that first house, I made $45,000 when I sold it. I built it, it took me like 9-10 months, sold it in the first year, made 45 grand. And and that was more than I made per hour working for my dad that year.
Yeah.
I was W-2, like making $40,000 a year. So I think I was like $15 an hour. And I was like, holy shit, this is how money can be made. Like that was mind blowing. I think that was where my mental shift and my mindset immediately started taking.
Before you get into that, as far as that house goes, like was it just an empty lot in the middle of fucking nowhere, or was it a lot like in a development?
In a development. Yeah. It was one of the leftover lots in an older development.
Oh, okay.
Not older, but like the majority of the houses were built like a year ago, and then this one's just left behind. And, then you found somebody that owned a couple, and then I bought that one.
Is it usual or typical for scenarios like that to happen, or is it usually they'll only let certain builders do it, or what? Like, is that
if it's a new development, they'll typically only let certain builders do it. But sometimes, depending on the development, every state's different. This is the big thing. Is like every state's different on developments. But Oklahoma, typically, there's a developer, and then they'll sell lots to builders. And sometimes the developer themselves will build on their own. Like you guys all know track houses, they build on their own lots. But it's so, for example, if the builder has a few left over and he's just done building or doesn't want to build them or waiting on them, he'll sell them too. Yeah. He'll make money on them.
I gotcha. Did you actually have your own LLC at that time?
I started it. I got guidance on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I created my own company, created my own everything, and then I did that one deal in that company.
Yeah. How did you bankroll the construction? Did you get a construction loan on top of
That's what he co-signed for.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so it was the land and a construction loan.
Well, when you had the land, the land and the construction, that's when the bank backs it.
I got you.
So they're either one or the other. You're either gonna put down a deposit with the bank, or you're gonna own the land.
I got you. So it took 9 or 10 months. You made $45K. What did you do with it? Did you celebrate at all, or did you go right into the like, holy fuck? I
did the next one. Yeah, I just moved to the next one. I started the next one. And on that one, I made less money because it took longer to sell.
Yeah.
So I realized, it's not always gravy train. No.
Yeah. Location's important.
Yeah. Timing. Yeah. Things you can't control.
Yeah. How many of those did you do?
The specs. So I built about 3 to 5, if I remember right. And I made money on all of them. I even got to a point where I took down a couple lots, and then I've sold the lot. So I'd made money on the lot, just like I had bought the lot. And I still wasn't a real estate investor minded person though. You know what I mean? I was still a builder. Like I need to build, I need to design this wall, what color paint, like what's cool, what's trendy. That was where my mind was. Like, how can I make this product perfect?
Yeah. So you build a handful of those. What was the shift that got you into the real estate mindset?
So from there, I go and I start getting custom homes off of those. So when I have them for sale, people will be like, "This is really good. You do a great job." But I have a lot in another neighborhood. I have land in east of town, and can you build on it? I'm like, yes. So I did customs, and I would do customs for people, and I would do what's called cost plus. And so I would build the house, and say it cost $1 million. I would do whatever the cost is. The cost is $1 million plus in between 10 and 15%, depending on the client, depending on what we're doing.
Yeah.
And so they bankroll the house, their loan, their construction loan. I don't carry any of the debt, and then I just make the percentage on top. But all of your company revenue, or all of your company expenses, come out of that 10 to 15%. So that's your gross revenue.
Were there ever instances where in those situations you lost money because you bid it wrong, or you fucking paid too much for something, or like did you ever have things go wrong? On
a spec house, yes. On a house that I built for sale, yes. I learned a real hardcore lesson in 2018. On custom houses, no, because on customs, we're giving you an estimate. This is an estimate. We don't know what things are going to cost, Mr. Ritland. Here you go. And then anything it costs, it's going to be 15% for me. So I take no liability basically. Yeah. But at the same time, this is where I shift from like being pissed off in the skid steer, starting my business, doing this, to being like, oh, I'm in another rat race. Yeah. I'm in another fucking mess. I hate, because now the clients feel like they own you. Yeah. Because I'm doing your house for you and your wife, blah, blah, blah. We got this going on. We're paying you 15. We're paying you great money. You know, and the expectations can never be met because I'm herding cats essentially, right? I got labor hands that are making mistakes in the field. It's not a perfect product. Yeah. You know, it's a house made by people, and there are thousands of people that work on this project. Yeah. And there are things that happen. There are things that a window gets broken by the cleaning lady with the broom on accident. You know, if you expect me to cover all of that, then I would make zero profit and do this house for free. Yeah. And so that's where it got really hard. And I was making good money. Building up customs, doing customs. I'd done show houses. I'd done Street of Dreams. I'd done Parade of Homes. Those are like high-level show homes. And then 2018, I was like, dude, fuck it. I just need to do more. Like, I need to get houses for sale. So I can build these things for, you know, $700,000-800,000. I can sell them for $1 million. I'm going to make great money. In 2018, the market wasn't super booming, but it was steady. And so I built $2 million specs, one with a partner, one by myself. And at this time, my wife and I we'd been married. I have 2 kids. I freaking started the business. I mean, all of that's going on the backside. All right. And I already built my own home too. At 30 years old, I built a 3,500 square foot house in a gated neighborhood with a pool because I was doing well. You know, I was like, fuck yeah, push it. Yeah. Had all the toys. And I'm like, dude, let's just keep going. This must get better. If I do more return. But I only know one part of real estate, and that's just building a home. So I was a one-faceted, you know, person. And so we go to build these 2, build one with a partner, build one by myself, and I held on to them for a lot longer. So now I have these payments, like $4 or $5 grand payments on each property, and they're just ticking and ticking and ticking. And that was the lowest low. I mean, that's where we're freaking worried about cash flow. We're worried about getting people paid. We're stretching credit cards. So I learned my mistakes, and what I really learned is that I was like, it's not how hard I'm pushing. It's the vehicle that I'm in that I'm pushing on. And so I need to learn something more. And so what I needed to learn was I needed to learn how to invest. I'm like, how can I make these liabilities now an opportunity to make more money? And that's where most people struggle, is they think they can just do one thing and it's going to be, no, you gotta do one thing, but then you got to see what other options are with it. Yeah. You know,
what it leads to.
Yeah. So I ended up put all 3 houses for sale. My house for sale, the spec house is already for sale, and then the partnership house is for sale, right? We end up selling, what do you think I sold first? My fucking house that I lived in. It's the least expensive. So I sold it for like $600,000, and I made like $100 grand on it. Super stoked about that. I'm like only 30, 31 years old at the time when I sold it, or 32, can't remember. And I'm like, fuck yeah, this is how it's done. But then I moved into the spec, which is a monster home and more than really I wanted. Like I was more expensive than I really could afford. But I had to moved into it. Then I sold the other house with my partner, and I had to bring $60,000 to the closing table just because we wanted to get it off our books, because we're paying for it monthly. So we together brought 60 grand. So I lost 30 just to sell the home. The realtor walks away with a freaking check. I bring the check to the table, and I'm like, that's another epiphany that I had. I'm like, okay, I'm taking all this risk as a builder. I'm building this house for sale. It takes me freaking 10 months, 12 months, you know, to build this fucking thing from ground up. Designers, get the bank loan, my neck's on the line. And then the realtor walks away with a $45,000 check, and I have to pay 30 grand. Like, oh, I don't know something. I need to learn more. This is a red flag. Either I continue to bang my head against the wall, or I figure out how this really works.
Yeah. So what was next?
I ended up selling the house that I'd moved in, the house, the spec house for sale. I made 100 grand on that plus, and I was like, thank God, give me some of my money back. You know, this is all within a period of like a year and a half, right? 2 years. So we rent a house, and then we're getting ready to build another one, because that's what you do as a builder. You build your own homes because you can build equity into them, and it's great. Build another home. But what we did really that was super important, dude, we invested like $52,000, and we put it on 2 credit cards at the same time. Well, we're already struggling. $52,000 into a real estate investing course where I would go out once a quarter, and I would go to these classes, and I'd sit all weekend, and I'd learn about real estate investing. I would learn about how to buy multifamily, how to buy commercial, how to buy mobile home parks, how to buy single family, how to fix and flip, how to build portfolios, how to create a finance, all of these things. I was all in. I mean, obviously, I put down money I didn't even have. I had to sell some of my toys. I had a 68 Chevelle with an LS and a T56. Sold that to pay the credit cards down, just to keep my neck above water. And but at the same time, I just knew that I didn't fucking college wasn't going to make me more money.
Yeah.
How am I going to learn to make more money? That's what blows my mind with people that don't seek out outside information or education. It's like, where do you think you're going to learn it? Unless your dad was in that space and you grew up and your dad's in oil and gas, you're in oil and gas. Unless your neighbor or somebody in your local town. We live in a time now where social media, you can reach out to somebody that may have a massive business that you can learn from. That's unheard of when I was young.
Yeah.
You know, it was like you talked to your dad's friend that you thought was successful. You know what I mean? You remember those times? Like, yeah, my Uncle Jerry, I think he did pretty well. And you'd ask him what he did. And, but so I dove right into real estate investing. I'm like, how the hell do I figure this out?
And so how does that work? Like, I mean, can you,
which part?
The real estate investing, generally speaking, I guess. I mean, like,
there's so many ways to make money in real estate.
I guess from your perspective, as you're learning this, the wheels are turning. Like,
yeah, I'm drinking from a fire hose, man.
Yeah, I mean, what made you decide to go the path that you went, and what path was that?
So at the beginning, what I did was I still kept building. I still kept my company going. And we had multiple customs at the time. So I never did one more spec. I was done. I'm never going to build another home for sale again, just by itself. So I'm going to focus on just doing these customs because it's guaranteed, right? For the most part. I already have contracts signed. I already have projects in process. I already have pretty much a guaranteed income. It's like a job. It's like a really high paid, high stress job because you're working for these clients like I explained to you guys. And so I have to continue to do this to feed the family and keep moving on. And I'm making good money at it now. So I'm getting myself out of a hole. I'm doing well. But at the same time, I'm doing this real estate investing courses and understanding it. And so what I started to do is I started to buy these affordable homes. So I started to get into affordable housing. I buy these houses for 50, 80 grand in Oklahoma City. And I would either fix them up a little bit with my construction team and sell them, or I'd fix them up and I'd rent them out. And I was like, okay. But what I really had to understand, and what's important about all of it, is I really had to understand debt. And that's what I didn't understand. I didn't understand how to get money from the bank. I didn't understand how to use that money as a tool instead of as a freaking problem, as a liability. And so that's what I started doing. I did. I bought like, I want to say like 5-ish properties. I built them up, had them rented, ended up selling them off, making some money on those. And I looked back, at the time that I'd sold them, and I was like, dude, I was making pretty good money on those. And so I still was forging the building company. My wife, obviously, she was involved in the real estate stuff. So I brought her on board. I think that's huge for you guys watching this. I brought my wife on board to this on this journey of entrepreneurship, on this self-development, on this progression. Because if you leave them behind, then you guys are going to be two different people at the end of the day. Yeah, straight up. So we're pushing together. We're doing the business, and she kind of went and beta tested. She got her real estate license. You don't have to have your real estate license to invest in real estate, but she did. She got her license. And she did this one deal. She did a wholesale deal because we were learning about wholesaling. We were kind of testing all of it, Mike. You asked the question of what did I do? Well, we kind of tested it all. We would go to a class, we'd do this thing, and we'd be like, fuck, we're going to try that. We're going to try that. One of the things I learned in the class was I had a rental for sale that was torn up already because the fucking tenants tore it up, and I didn't know what I was doing there. I just dove in head first. And they taught me how to do creative selling, creative financing. So I did what's called a contract for deed on this property, and I sold this property to someone else without a bank. I became the bank. And so that saved me from having to sell a property that I would have been upside down on. So that already paid for itself in education. And then she's wholesaling as well on the side. So she started doing some wholesaling. And I remember her making like $18,000 on one wholesale transaction. And I was doing a remodel for a friend of ours in a neighborhood because I was still needing to keep covering the bills. So I was doing a remodel, and it was like a $400,000 remodel. The house wasn't 400, but that's how much addition we were adding onto it. So a pretty decent remodel. And between me and my partner, because I was still partnered at that time, splitting the bill after the profit, I was only going to make freaking about $18,000, $20,000 bucks, but it was going to take me 9 to 12 months to make that money. Yeah. And she made it in like 30 days. And so that was my next epiphany, that I went from creating this business that was successful, building company, and everybody thought I was crazy, for getting out of, to going full bore into real estate investing. And real estate investing for me was single family because it's just the easiest, most liquid. You can get into fix and flips. You can get into buy and holds, meaning rental properties. You can do seller finance transactions. You can buy creatively. In the building community, I mean, I had even gotten on the board of directors for the Central Oklahoma Home Builders Association. So I was building up my building brand. I had a good relationship with everybody. I had a good reputation. But the money, it just didn't line up, man. It didn't give me the freedom, which is what I wanted. I wanted the time freedom, which is super important. Most people are looking for time freedom and the money, because if you have all the money and you don't have the time, then what the fuck's the point? Yeah. So
on the transverse, if you got all the time and you're broke as fuck,
it is. Yeah, we all.
Then you're focusing on how broke you are the whole time.
Exactly.
So the stuff that your wife was doing was just like normal real estate agent stuff, or
no? So what she did was she was doing normal real estate agent stuff. So she was listing some of our flips, and then what she was also doing was what's called wholesaling. And so she would do a wholesale transaction where you get a property under contract direct to the seller. And then you take that and you sell that contract to an investor that wants to buy the property. So for instance, they say, this is me in my example. I get a property under contract from Joe Smith over here. Joe Smith's going to sell me the property for $50,000. I negotiated it. It needs a lot of work. It was a hoarder house. It was an old rental property, whatever, from Joe Smith. And you're like, hey, I'm looking to get into investing. I want to buy some property. I'm like, I got a deal for you, Mike. I'll sell it to you for $60,000. And so I make $10,000. And so I trade positions with you in the contract.
How do you insert yourself into that position though? Like, how do you go from
learn it? You have to educate, education. And that was what was so important, is I had to understand that. And so I had to have the knowledge to be able to go and market to find this guy, to find this deal.
So is there any nuance to that, or is it just a very specific skill set that you have to take a course to learn?
I mean, essentially what happens is people just don't know that that's an option or know how to do that. And so once you understand once you understand how to do it, you can do it. So your friend may be in a troubled position where they're going bankrupt, and you could wholesale their house and or sell it. Most people would just say, oh man, I'm really sorry. I can't give you any money. But the reality is you have an opportunity there to help them out in a financial bind, and two, make money on it if it's a good deal. And three, give it to an investor that's going to make the community better.
But is there to be able to do that, is there a licensing process?
You do not have to be licensed to wholesale. Now, some states are trying to outlaw it. Some states are trying to mitigate it, but there's no license. You don't have to have a license to do so. Because I wouldn't have to have a license to sell you a property.
Right.
Right.
Is there a Reader's Digest version of how you get into that, or is it too complicated for?
So the best thing, honestly, is really just to invest in mentorships and coaching, and that's what I help people out with now. And really, what I show them is not necessarily wholesale. I got into real estate a little bit of wholesale, like I said. But what really made me more successful, Mike, was being able to take down and own properties. And so many people don't think that they can own rental properties when they can. And it's understanding the finance. I mentioned it a minute ago. They don't understand that they can get these loans that'll help them flip a home. They think that you have to have 20% down and 30% down to go buy a rental property. And that's false. You don't have to have that. Because how the hell would you scale a portfolio if you had to have 20, 30% down? You know how long it would take to get 10 properties, 20 properties for the average Joe that makes $100,000 a year?
Yeah.
So that's not the case. You need to learn to buy these assets where they're distressed, add value to them, and then you create a gap in equity. So for instance, my example is you bought a house for $50,000. You do $20,000 in rehab. The bank will loan you all of that money most of the time. That's $70,000. Now, we already knew before we bought this property that it was going to be worth $100,000. So we created $30,000 in equity from the gap of what the property's worth versus what we owe on the property. And so that can either be sold as a flip, as profit, or it can be refinanced and put into a rental portfolio, because the banks will loan you on a longer loan. You can refinance and get a new loan. They'll loan you 30 years or 25 years on that 70% of the appraised value. And if we said the appraised value is $100,000, they're going to loan you $70,000. If the bank funded you the original purchase price and the construction costs, you're in for zero money.
Yeah.
And that's how you can build a portfolio.
Is there a name for that type of
There's
loan
a
structure?
BRRRR method. It's been branded. I don't know who branded it, but it's called the BRRRR method. You know, buy, rehab, rent if you're going to rent it, and then refinance and then repeat.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
So to go to a bank, do you ask for like
you would ask for a construction loan? You say, I'm going to be a fix and flip guy. You know, I want to fix and flip a property, and it's a distressed property. You guys have any property? You guys have any packages for that?
Yeah, I gotcha.
That's how you start.
Yeah, that's fucking interesting.
But the concept, Mike, works on. We're talking about it in a residential aspect, but when you go it works in a commercial aspect. If you take this building and it was bad shape, and you redid the whole thing, and then you leased it to two tenants, there's going to be a bank that loans you. The benefit of doing it on a commercial side is that they're going to loan you based on how much money it makes. So the net operating income. When it's a house, it gets based off of two things. It gets based off of how you got it rented out, because the banks want to see, okay, is it rented out? We'll loan you on that investment deal if it's rented out. But it also gets based on an appraisal. So that means it gets comped and it gets based on other properties like it around the area. That's a good thing and a bad thing. The bad thing is it could be a lower appraisal and the bank will use that. When it's based off of net operating income, that's how multifamily commercial guys are doing it, because it's just all off revenue.
Yeah. So where did you go from there? Like once you had that kind of light bulb moment, seeing your wife make a bunch of money quick, and then you decide, okay, where did you go from there?
So essentially with custom homes, you just don't take any more clients, right? I'm just not, hey, we're not doing it anymore. So I slowly shut it down, and I started focusing on getting those fix and flips, getting those deals, getting those rentals, getting those contract for deeds, all of these things. A real estate investor has all the tools in their tool belt. And so many times people think, oh, they're an agent, or they're a wholesaler, or they're a fix and flipper, or they're a buy and hold guy, or they're a creative guy. No, a real estate investor has all those tools in his tool belt, and they have a team, and they can do that. They can do all of them, because you got to be able to analyze the deal for multiple scenarios. Same like being in the military. You have one mission, but you have multiple contingency plans. Yeah. If you assess it from one position, then you're very fucking weak. Yeah, it's the same concept with real estate.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I said that's just how it is. So what happened was, I was like, all right. So I just stopped building. I just said, I'm not going to take any more clients. So I finished out my remaining projects, and I was making enough money in real estate that I was like, this is the best thing I ever did. The hardest thing I struggled with, another weird thing that I struggled with, was I was so programmed to go to an office, and I started working from home a little more. And I started it was a weird change from not having this, because I did work for my dad so long, or I felt like so long. You go to the office, you check in, you get in the truck, company truck, you do these things. Physical activity was related to money making. Even as a builder, get in your truck, check the jobs, talk to Jerry, talk to the HVAC guy, talk to the trim carpenter, talk to the painter. You got to get out. You got to go. You got to get on your phone. You got to run around and smash a bunch of fast food and get a big and fat and drive your truck around and do all this shit. That's what you think of when you think of a contractor. Yeah. So that's what they do. And I was like, how the fuck do I reprogram myself not to be that guy? I felt a lot of anxiety, like not going and doing something. But the reality, the thing that I could do the most, that made me the most amount of money, was buying another deal, focusing on another deal. And I was like, I can do this from my freaking cell phone and a laptop. And I can go check the project like once a week or a little less, or I can get a guy to go see it. Because it's not a massive multi-million-dollar house like I was building before. It's a freaking 1,000 square foot house in South Oklahoma City that needs some paint and some carpet, and I'm going to turn around and sell it and make 25, 40 grand. Yeah. So it's not as, and what the epiphany is I was like, there's got to be a better way that I can have my time and make money, because what I'm doing now is not scalable. I can't grow. And so how do I get my life back? And that's where I made the pivot to real estate investing.
Yeah. And so at this point, like for anybody listening that says, yeah, it sounds great. Yeah. But I work I work at Tractor Supply, and I make, fucking $38,000 a year. And how the fuck do I get into that?
I have a program for that, right? Like, and I'm not just selling people on this shit, but it's because it worked for me. That's why I'm so passionate about it. But the truth is, I looked back, and since I've started coaching people for about a year and a half now, Mike, I mean, what I've really realized is I go back and I'm like, I learned a lot through the other phases. And so if you're the guy that's at Tractor Supply, you make $38,000 a year, you really have other things you need to focus on. Because I get on calls with people all the time, and you're like, I want to get into real estate investing. And all they're thinking is they want to get rich and they want to get a different life. But the reality is they have to change first. There's probably fucking habits and things that they've done in their life that have led them to the position that they're in. Yeah. They have shitty credit. They've been a shitty person. They can't hold their word to anything. All of those things we're talking about. How the fuck do you think you're going to go make a bunch of money and be successful if you can't even show up to fucking Tractor Supply on time? Yeah. And that's kind of the mindset. So once you start with yourself, we'll build you up. You get your freaking personal finances in order. You get your house in order, right? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, from the very basics of things, some people just don't have those, and they think they're going to go make millions. Yeah. So we do that. But let's say they do have the money. Let's say they're all disciplined and stuff. Then what we do is we just freaking start assessing where they're at financially and what position that they can get in, what's in their area, what style of real estate is going to work best for them. And then we start pushing on it. We have, indicators we need to hit, and we have a whole process for it. Yeah,
that's fucking cool, man. Can I ask how many clients you've taken?
Off the top of my head, I would say it's a little over 75.
Wow.
Yeah, in a year and a half. Yeah.
So how does your program work?
They just reach out to me directly. Yeah.
And is it all custom? Like, it depends on what you want to do, or do you have
So what I teach them really from the basics is exactly what I did. And that's because, like I said, most people don't think they can get into real estate. I literally talk to people every day, and they're all like, I got to have so much money to get into it. Everybody thinks you have to have money to get into real estate. Real estate can do two things. This is what I learned. and I teach others, is that it can freaking make you an active income by fixing, flipping, wholesaling, doing these things to make money today, money in the next 30 days. And it can make you a passive income. Now, passive, use that with a freaking grain of salt because your tenants still are going to call you, still have problems. Passive. But you can make you both. So it's building you wealth. Let's call it wealth. It's building you wealth at the same time it's building you an active income. So say you flip a couple houses. Let's say you flip 4 a year in your W-2 and you made 25 a pop. That's $100,000. And then you took down 3 and you kept them as rentals. Now, you're not going to make a bunch of money from rentals. Everybody got sold that they're going to make a bunch of money from rental properties. That's not really the truth. But what those rental properties are going to do is those rental properties are going to get paid down while they go up in value, and they're going to help you with your tax bill because you just made $100,000 over here. And so now you're going to be able to depreciate those other 3, and you're going to be able to write off on your taxes and make a 0. But in order to get to that point, you have to have the foundation. You have to have some momentum, which is what my momentum program is about. And then you got to level up, and then you got to get in the inner circle. And the inner circle is where we're going to take you where you're at, and we're going to really start diving into deals.
Yeah. Do you fuck with Airbnb at all?
I never have because I was in Oklahoma. I think it could have been successful. Now that I'm in San Diego, it could have been because it's a destination location. But I saw people do Airbnbs in Oklahoma, and I'm like, who the fuck's going to rent this thing? Yeah. It's an old shitty house nowhere.
Yeah.
You know? But they can make money, but I do know this, and this is what's kept me out of it, man. I focused on one thing at a time, and that's how I built my tool belt.
Yeah.
So I would do this really good, and I would add on something. Do this really good, add on something, boom, boom, boom. But Airbnb or VRBOs, man, you're a hospitality business more than you're a real estate. Real estate, the real benefit to holding property is the appreciation.
Yeah.
So if you're going to buy in a destination location, let's say if you were a West Coast team guy, you'd bought a property back when you were there, and you used it as a VRBO, do you know what it'd be worth now, what the equity would be?
Silly. I mean, I remember in the late 90s, like you could buy a place in Coronado for like $100,000.
Oh my God.
You know,
going back to your question, you said, if we had a time machine, that's where we're fucking going,
go
bro.
To Coronado in 98 and drop $500,000. Yeah. I mean,
you'd be worth freaking $100 million.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I say $100,000. I mean, it was laughably inexpensive, you know, because I remember guys that I was at work with that, you know, it was like a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, you know, but they were, you know, young, married, you know, so they had the BAH and fucking housing and whatever. And yeah, they bought like just a little place.
A Navy dude could buy a house on Coronado.
Oh yeah.
That's unfucking heard of now.
And I mean, and I remember even in the mid 2000s or, you know, as I was getting out in 08, there were enlisted guys that like their portfolios from buying a couple of places and just sitting on them for 7 or 8 years.
Exactly.
Like it was getting to a point where there was an issue with they had so much or were worth so much that there was like the Navy was considering fucking kicking them out because they made so much more than the fucking admiral or like something like that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean I don't remember.
I mean that's fucking crazy.
I mean,
we know how the military's crazy.
Yeah, I mean maybe it's an old wives' tale. I remember hearing stories about shit like that though. That guys that kind of got into it and bought 3 or 4 places and it was the bubble and you know and it was just like. Yeah. It exploded to where they're now worth several $1 million, you know,
and honestly, man, that's dumb investors. They're not even pros.
Yeah.
They were just like, oh fuck, I bought a property and here it happened.
I'm stationed here and I can buy one. I'll do it. Yeah.
Think what you can do with intentionality and some skills. That's what happens, and that's what you know. But going back to your VRBO question, you're more of a hospitality business. So you guys, you know, say you had 10 tenants a month. If you're running a VRBO, I only have 1. You know, for a year. So it depends on your location. It's not a bad play. It would be harder to get in because if you are going to buy a destination location, now we're talking a multi-million-dollar property. Yeah. So I don't know if that risk probably doesn't outweigh itself at first.
From a bank standpoint, is that also going to be harder to get a bank to lend you
on a VRBO? Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, yeah, totally different. You're not going to go in saying, I want a VRBO. You're probably going to go and say, the only way to do a VRBO, in my opinion, and this is what happens when you start getting an investor mindset, is like, I'm going to buy a shitty house, I'm going to redo the whole thing, and then I'm going to lease it out. And so your loan structure would be the same as a fix and flip or a buy and hold or a BRRRR. Yeah. You would just end up, what you do at the end of it is a choice. And that's another thing that I like when we take down these properties in the process that I show you guys, is that we have multiple contingency plans. So if we can't sell it as a fix and flip, we could rent it out. We do our numbers in advance. And so we could rent it out. If we don't want to rent it out, maybe I don't want any rentals, we could seller finance it. And I have over like 25 seller finance properties that I make great money on that I don't have any maintenance with, and I'm just the bank.
Yeah. Well, so, I mean, in that same, I guess, chain of logic, I mean, for, let's just say, hypothetically or arbitrarily, $1 million Airbnb style property, it's a good location. Maybe it doesn't need a ton. Can you do the fix and flip or BRRRR method on a property of that size?
100%. Absolutely.
Like even if you intend to Airbnb it, you can say you're going to do that. And
sure. They don't care what you do with it. They just want you to make the payment. Bank just wants to make money. Yeah, they do not care. It's a commercial. Actually, most of the time, like the types of loans that you're going to get in the real estate business as a real estate professional, all they care about is this, you sign something that says you're not going to live there.
Yeah.
It's not your primary.
And so
they want you to use it as a business because they want to get paid. It's less risky for them. Think about this, guys.
Yeah.
It's less risky for them for you to have it as a business making money than it is for you to have a fucking job and pay your payment. What does that say about ownership of property?
Yeah. Well, so with that, then the construction style loan for like if you're trying to get 100% financed, I mean, how does that work rate wise? And like if you're not putting shit down, like I think that's the most confusing thing for people because most people's understanding is I'm buying a house, I got to put, at least 10, but usually 15 or even 20% down.
Yeah.
How do you not have to do that?
So you're buying a property at a discount that has more potential for value, and you're creating the value by redoing the property. So the way you're doing that is you're going to either use hard money or you could use small town lenders, all depending on where you're at. But you're buying a property in a neighborhood. Let's say that every house in there is around $1 million. Same concept. We're going to do the same concept. Every house in there is $1 million. But we found one that's a little shittier, a little ran down. Grandma lived there. She died. Kids don't know what to do with it. They live out of state. They don't give a shit about the property. They just want the money from the trust or the inheritance. They sell it. They're like, quick sell it. Let's just get this fucking thing done. I can't fly to this state and get it done. Sell it for $500. You're going to add value to it, and you're going to create a gap between what you built it up for and what it's worth. And how you're going to do that is the bank's going to loan you. There's multiple ways. We could get into this. It could be hours of talking about lending, but there's multiple ways. So you can get into the property with hard money. You can get into it with private money. I could say, hey, Mike, I got a deal. You know that I'm a real estate investor. You're like, hey, I'm ready to put my money to work. You could fund the deal and be the bank for me. Or you can go to a traditional, more commercial bank, and they're going to give you the loan on the construction, like a construction loan. And what they do is they fund the purchase price, and then they fund the rehab cost as well. So at the beginning, a lot of times they'll either give you the 90% of the purchase price. Sometimes they'll give you 100, depending on how you structure it. But most of the time, they'll give you about 90% of the purchase price, and then they'll give you 100% of the rehab cost because they're analyzing it the same way you are. They're looking at it and say, hey, Mike, yeah, you sent us this deal. Looks like 12345 Street. It's the neighborhood full of houses that are $1 million. You're buying it for 500, and you're telling me your budget to rehab this thing is 175,000. Sure, we'll do it.
Yeah,
they'll do it in a heartbeat. And then once you get good, you can become a professional real estate investor. You create these banking relationships. You create credibility. You have a good reputation. They'll loan you 100%. Like banks loan me 100% on all of it.
Yeah. Is it safe to say that the biggest misconception about real estate is that you already have to have a ton of money to do it?
It's the biggest misconception.
By far.
There's two things, and people laugh about this, but the biggest misconception is you have to have a lot of money to do it, and you have to be a real estate agent.
Yeah.
Which a real estate agent, you guys need to think about this. If you're watching this, if you're a real estate agent, is nothing more than a salesperson. They're a broker. They're an agent between two people doing a transaction. And so if you're doing a retail transaction, then an agent doing paperwork and all that kind of stuff is beneficial for an uneducated person. But they're nothing more than essentially, it's going to piss them off, but nothing more than a car salesman, right? They don't own the car. They don't own the real estate. And not all agents know anything about real estate investing. Some do. I have great friends that know a ton about real estate investing that are agents. But some don't. Stacy that flips the freaking lights on doesn't know shit about how this is going to make the best ROI.
Yeah.
So be cautious that you hire your aunt to find you investment deals.
Yeah. Do you have a specific strategy for identifying an opportunity? Like, are there boxes that need to be checked? Like, how do you evaluate something? Yeah.
So the best thing, this is the coolest thing about real estate investing versus building. When you're building a custom home or you're doing in other types of business where you're dealing with clients directly, it's emotional, right? Like you chose this background, Mike, because you liked it. You chose this because you like it. These things you like. Everything's emotional. And it's like, oh, I like it or I don't, or the countertops or this. In real estate investing, we only buy deals. We only take down things that make us money. So it's like, how can it make us money? We run the numbers backwards, do the math like we were talking about earlier. If it doesn't make us money, we're not taking it down. End of story. If you want too much for the property, you want $700,000 for it. I told you I need to have it at $500,000 in order to make my business work. Doesn't look like we're going to have an agreement, man. I'm going to find another one. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's it.
Just keep it black and white and
it's black
leave
and white.
The emotion.
The business is only, and people get all jacked up about getting their first rental property or their first investment, think they're going to be rich, but you and I both know you don't do things on emotion.
Yeah.
It's all numbers, especially investing money.
Yeah.
As much as I'm a risk taker in the sense of doing business and doing cool shit, and I love that, when it comes to money and business, like there's parameters that you need to hit and there's numbers that need to be ran.
Yeah. What is the biggest risk of doing what you're talking about doing?
Not educating yourself.
Yeah.
Honestly, like, I mean, people are going to say the market, the interest rates, this and that, but that's truthfully, it's just like your skill set. When you become a pro at something, when you know what you're doing, you're less risky.
Yeah.
It's risky for me to go ride a motorcycle because I don't fucking ride motorcycles. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it's risky for me to go swim with you because I don't swim for shit.
Well, we need to get you on a motorcycle here in a little bit.
But
for some good
content
Patreon footage.
This freaking speed wobbles and
Have
shit.
you never ridden?
I had a Harley Ironhead when I met my wife, and I laid it down, and I'm just a dumbass on trails. I try to keep up with guys like you, man, and I didn't grow up on bikes.
Yeah, I didn't either, but which I think was good actually, is that I didn't really get into riding until I was an older adult and kind of had had the ability to put my ego in my back pocket.
Yeah,
at least sometimes.
Yeah,
and always when riding, like I always am pretty good about knowing when to push it and when not to, and who I can keep up with and who I can, and all that. But
that makes sense, man.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of people, hear what you're saying and they're like, fuck, that sounds great. How do I start? There's the obvious, call you and we'll get your contact for
sure. Why don't you call my number? We can plug my number right now, Mike. Does that work?
Yeah. What is it?
I'll plug my number right now. It's a 405. My number is 405-697-4072.
Amen. So there you
call
have
me.
it.
Just text me. The best thing you can do is text me. We'll start chatting. I'm not going to hard sell somebody on a program. I honestly am just going to have a conversation and see if it's something that you guys can do, that you're capable of, and see where you're at. And, maybe I can give you some advice, just like that.
Do you have a bunch of different programs? Like, are there different?
Yeah, so essentially, like I said, I kind of start out at momentum. So it depends on where somebody's at. If they're the freaking person that you talked about, if they're working at Tractor Supply, they got to get some basics down. We got to get some financial discipline. I feel it's super important that here's the deal. If you can't save up 10 grand, you probably shouldn't be taking hundreds of thousands of dollars of loans.
Yeah.
Everybody would agree with that. So we got to say, if you don't have 10 grand, we have a place where we can help those people get to the point where they can save or make 10 grand. And then now we can start analyzing real estate. There's steps.
Yeah. Then it's tiered from there.
Yeah. And that's why I kind of always chuckle at people maybe it's just me because I answer a lot of calls from people that are asking about real estate and asking about self-development. And they're like, what about multifamily? And I pause and I'm like, well, you haven't done any deals, have you? Do you own any real estate? They're like, no, I haven't done anything, but I've seen Grant Cardone, I've seen blah, blah, blah talk about it, and they say it's the best. And I was like, okay, so let's do some quick math. So if you're having a problem, you rent this place now and you're having a problem with your bills, or maybe you're just trying to get into real estate and you haven't done any deals, you're telling me you want to do a $10 million deal? And they're like, oh. I'm like, yeah. So let's get over the guru hype on social media and let's just start doing some transactions. Let's learn business. Let's create a company. Let's make some money. And if you want to go do multifamily at that point and you're educated in it and you met 5 friends at a convention or something, or you've networked with them, by all means.
Yeah.
No,
it's good advice, man. I think the stair-stepping approach is what takes the intimidation out of it for most people.
For sure. But I have some people though that are ready to go, like that are like, dude, I have $500,000 in cash. I do really well for myself. I just haven't taken the leap in real estate. I'm kind of intimidated by it, even though I do really well with my other business. And I have another program, a high level program for those guys, and we take off. They move.
Yeah. What does that look like?
Cost wise, $25,000 to get started and $1,000 a month.
And then it's just basically being apprenticed, basically.
Basically, it's one-on-one. I hold their hand, and but you got to think, like, some people may watch this and say, "Holy shit, that's a lot of money." But one of my first 5 students made $25,000 in the first 81 days and ended up quitting his oil and gas job.
Yeah.
Because it works. Real estate works.
Yeah. Well, to me, what I like about the system that you're talking about is that it's very black and white. It's not speculative. To a certain extent.
I did the speculative stuff.
Yeah. There's an element of it, but it's
right.
Do the numbers work or do they not? If they don't, then you don't fucking do it. Like, to me, there needs to be more of that. And I think if that was explained better, by people in your shoes, or in not saying that you don't.
That's what we're working on doing.
Yeah, is that I think
I'm doing.
More people would be into it. Is there any fear that that there's only so much, and like you don't want too many people to get into this good deal, and you're going to end up fucking yourself out of opportunities?
No, honestly, no. Because that's the cool thing about real estate investing versus a lot of other business. A lot of other business is cutthroat, right? Like, I have a brand, you have a brand. Who does what? Who's got bigger clout? Do you take clients from me? No. Real estate investing, like, maybe you find a deal and it doesn't fit your profile. and you're like, hey, Austin, I got one in your area that I just don't really want to flip. Let's do some business together. I'll sell it to you for 10 grand over what I got it for. I'm like, perfect. This is great. I'll make that shit work.
Yeah.
So everybody can work together, you know?
Yeah.
And that's what's cool about real estate investing. Or you can partner on deals. It's not like that.
There's no shortage of fucking houses.
There's no shortage of houses. Like every single person that's going to watch this video is going to be, hopefully every single person has a roof over their head and they're in some kind of real estate when they lay their head to bed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and that's another thing. I get the question all the time. What about interest rates? What about the market crashing? What about 2008? Well, it depends on where you live. Right. And you can invest in other places. If you're in a place that's bad, if you're in fucking LA, you know, maybe that's not the best place to hold property. Maybe there's other opportunities there, but maybe not the best place to build a rental portfolio. So you're able to take that knowledge and invest it in somewhere else. You can team up with somebody else that's in the program and maybe do some deals in Ohio. I got students, one lives in Colorado. He has bought 6 units in the first 4 months working with me in Ohio.
Yeah.
And you can do that.
How do you go about analyzing whether or not a market is a good place to invest in?
I think there's a strategy for every market. There's just going to be more tension of getting further down the road, if that makes sense. It's going to be harder for you to become more successful in certain markets versus others. We could use Oklahoma City and Dallas, Texas as an example. Dallas, Texas's economy, where we're at now, it's always been skyrocketing for a long time. It's on a good trending, you know, pattern. Why is that? There's industrial, there's an international airport, there's all these things, there's more people, more jobs, those type of things is going to grow the economy more. You guys' appreciation rate's a lot higher. Oklahoma's stable. My portfolio, majority of my properties are in Oklahoma. It's stable. It's okay, but we don't have the hockey stick growth that Texas has had, or at least Dallas specifically. You know, so in every area there's an opportunity. There's certain things we avoid, and that's what I coach people on and I help them out with.
Yeah.
But you know, and going back to like what I said, the caveat, people are like interest rates, blah blah blah. I just want to say this. A good investor buys property in a down market or an up market. Most investors make all of their money in a down market because they're buying things at a discount and they have the knowledge to do so and the banking power because they already started. And then if the interest rates are bad, you just got to underwrite the new numbers.
Yeah.
You're just literally, underwriting means running the numbers on the deal. That's it. It is what it is. If it doesn't make sense, we don't buy it.
Yeah, that makes good sense. So with the coaching program, what's been the biggest challenge doing it?
The biggest challenge is, you know, it's taken a lot more time. It's taken a lot of time away from my real estate business itself, just to be completely honest. Like, so that's the biggest challenge, straight up. It's like trying to run both businesses. And so I'm having to bring people on to help on both sides, back end, fulfillment, helping with my real estate business as well. My wife's been super clutch on like doing a lot of the real estate stuff, but it's hard to build two verticals at the same time.
Yeah. And you got 2 young kids, right?
Yeah, 2 daughters, 7 and 8.
Even though you're not doing a 9 to 5,
I'm doing like
all
day,
23,
24/7. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even though you're at home, like, do you balance wise, do you struggle with making time, being present, doing the things as a girl dad at that age?
I love it. Honestly, like I'm all in all the time. They know that, especially because I get reached out to all the time on social media, text, you know, through anything, through my website. So people are always constantly doing it. And I find a lot of joy in coaching. Like I feel like my passion's much more in that because I love helping people. I love seeing people grow and blossom and showing them how I did it, and they can do it too. There's nothing more rewarding than that to me. But there'll be times where I have to just, you know, I have to be where your feet are. I have to be present. I have to put my phone down, turn it upside down, put it on silent. And then I'm there working on homework with my daughter, skating, whatever we're doing, you know, daughters.
Yeah.
And it just has to be intentional, man. You got to be intentional with it. And I struggle with it. No joke.
Yeah.
Because I feel like in the back of my head, I could be answering that. I could be going and doing that.
Yeah.
But
do you go as far as to scheduling it, or do you just?
I don't. So my routine's like this. I wake up really early. I go to the gym. I'm at the gym by 5. I freaking work out. I come home and I'm usually making breakfast with my kids. So I get a lot of time with my kids in the morning too. I take them to school. When I take the girls to school, my wife goes to the gym, and so she gets her own time. And then we collab back at our house now. I used to be an office. I had a 3,300 square foot office in Oklahoma and sold all that, did all that. But now we go back home. And then her and I have like a business meeting, and then we start, you know, going over everything.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty tight on my schedule, man. I mean, I live and die by the white space on my calendar.
Yeah. You recently moved from Oklahoma to California.
Yep.
There's a number of people, maybe myself included, that would say, why the fuck would you do that? I get it. I mean, San Diego's a beautiful place, but just cost of living, real estate, and just, you know, to me, the last few times I've been out there, I was a little disappointed at kind of the rundownedness of the city
downtown especially
that is there that wasn't there 10 years ago.
Yeah. All big cities like that, I feel, are getting hit. I mean, we all know why. It's just horrible politics. It's just we could all solve the problem. They're just not doing it.
Yeah.
The reason. So your question is why?
Yeah, I mean that's like financially there's a.
I mean,
hit, right?
I always wanted to go back. I was there at boot camp in the Marine Corps, School of Infantry at Pendleton. Spent some time out there, had some great memories. Moved back to Oklahoma after getting out, and I just fell in love with San Diego. You know, I grew up, man, watching Jesse James and Long Beach. I grew up watching all the surfers and the tattoo artists, and everything was L.A. or SoCal. Yeah. You know, hot rods, everything. I mean, that was like I would look at the magazines, I would read the books, I would freaking watch the shows, and so I always wanted to be in Southern California. And then when I got a taste of it in the Marine Corps, I just fell in love with it. I was like, this is where I need to be. I don't know why I didn't have the epiphany to move out there right after I got out or go back, but I didn't. Yeah. Fortunately, I have a wife and kids now. So.
Well, I mean, do you think that you would have learned what you learned if you had moved there?
I don't know, man. That's a good question. Coulda, shoulda, woulda, but I'm glad it panned out as it did.
Yeah.
And I can afford to live out there. You know, I do really well, so I'm able to live out there. So the cost of living actually, in some aspects, helps on mitigating a bunch of riffraff. To be honest, like it's cleaner where I live. The public school system's better where I live now in California than my kids always went to private Christian schools in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So it's a different level because of the what people can afford.
Yeah.
And doing real estate in general, for people that watch this and are thinking, I live in an expensive area or whatnot, or California in general, you can do exactly what I talked about on the $50,000 deals, the things I did in Oklahoma in California. You can do it. It's the same numbers, just adding a zero.
Yeah. You may not want to mention, can I ask what part of San Diego you live in?
Yeah, I live outside of Del Mar.
Oh, okay.
I live in Carmel Valley.
Yeah. Oh,
I can tell everybody. That's cool. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I live in the suburb. I mean, kind of suburbs, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So north of downtown, which is great. We looked at living on Coronado. I didn't want to be on the island. Just felt trapped a bit.
Yeah. If shit goes sideways, that's not a good place to be.
No. I mean, I'm like less than 45 minutes from Temecula. I'm 20 minutes from the beach.
But you're way closer to LA too. You know?
I'm like an hour and 45 minutes to LA.
Yeah.
30 minutes from Oceanside.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, I still wouldn't want to live there, but I love visiting there for a few days. But
I love the outdoors.
Yeah.
Like I grew up in Oklahoma, so you got in the car and you drove to the store, and the big Walmart parking lots are paved with thousands of acres of concrete. And honestly, like I love the fact that there's so many outdoor sports. I meet people that are skating in their 60s, like dudes skateboarding. You know, like everybody's walking outside all the time, biking, surfing, kayaking, very action packed, and that's what I want.
Yeah. Skating in their 60s?
Yeah, skateboarding, man. Yeah, I met a few guys at the pump track.
Things that'll never happen for me for 500, Alex.
He's a Texas guy.
Fuck no.
You riding horses out here?
No, fuck no. No, I'm not riding much anything except a fucking motorcycle. But I'll do that at 60 if I still can. But
yeah.
Man, that's fascinating shit. The in terms of the move, I guess. How did your family take that? I mean, was it something that was a pain in the ass, or that they were questioning?
Yeah,
like
good question. You're like, what the fuck's your wife thinking?
Yeah, I mean, like, was it a group decision? Was
yeah,
it
it's a group decision. Yeah,
like so, the kids were even all right with it.
Yeah, kids. You know, I moved at 8, so I kind of they're gonna figure it out.
Yeah,
and I'd rather we'll all figure it out. Yeah. You know, through adversity we grow, and so. We built multiple of our own homes. I kind of go to rewind my story. I mean, I built my first big house, 3,500 square foot in Oklahoma was a big house, a $400,000 house at 30 years old, 2 babies. So the progression was boom, went to the next one. That's when we were going through financial struggles. Built another one after that and had an awesome house. I built it fully custom for myself in Oklahoma. I mean, we're talking gym in the basement, office, pool, spa, whole 9 yards, whole baller house. I loved it. It was great. 4-car garage, all my toys. And then I was just like, well, what's the next level to this? Are we just going to keep moving around our area that we grew up in, or are we going to really push ourselves? And fortunately, we have the opportunity to do so. The paradigm shift of the real estate really taking off and doing more and growing that business, getting more property, accumulating more property, and scaling. And I don't mean scaling like having hundreds of employees. I just mean scaling as in having more property, being able to take down 20 a year, taking down 30, 40 houses and accumulating those a year. We grew quickly that way, and we're like, oh, we don't have to live where we're at. We could work from our phones and our laptops. We have some staff in place. I still have an office in Oklahoma that I have a bookkeeper at. She does all her work there. So I was like, if I don't have to live here, where would I live? And so we started looking at like Boca Raton, Florida. I started looking at Scottsdale, Arizona, San Diego. I still had my heart, but I was hesitant to move out there, man, because of just the people's perception, as you know, living in Texas and in Oklahoma, or me from Oklahoma and you from Texas, that's just like California, crazy liberals, blue-haired fucking people.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know. And we went and visited and I was like, is it like I remembered? And it was sick. It was awesome. Honestly, I'll say this. The people in freaking Oklahoma are more miserable than people in San Diego, 1,000%.
Yeah.
Not everybody. But when you go to a restaurant in Oklahoma, one pops up as a hot spot, a new one pops up, this one dies because of the economy. There's not enough people.
Yeah.
So that they're hopping around. So then in the same situation, that makes people upset. What happens is you go to a restaurant, the hostess is fucking pissed off. Some of y'all have probably seen this since COVID, and it's very transparent. I talked to a lot of people about it. You go to a restaurant, the damn hostess is all pissed off, the server's pissed off, people treat you like shit, everybody's angry, and you're like, what the fuck am I doing here? Why am I at this restaurant? Why are you treating me like this? I'm paying for this.
Yeah.
That attitude felt like there was a lot of that and that wasn't how it was when I grew up there.
Yeah.
And it's just how it seemed to be after COVID. More and more people looking for jobs, restaurants trying to barely stay afloat. You go to San Diego, the freaking hostess, she just got out of high school. She works in high school and she goes surf in the morning and then she went to work and walks her dog outside in her tiny little apartment and it skips around and has a great time. She's a California kid.
Yeah.
So it's just different vibes, man.
Business wise though, from a tax standpoint, I mean, that's a big consolidation, right?
I'm in the process. So my taxes 2024 will still be solid. Will still be in Oklahoma, but my last year will probably be that time. So I'll have to face Gavin Newsom head on and we'll have to fight.
What is the difference coming from Oklahoma to California tax wise?
It's substantially more per state. I don't even know the number off the top of my head. So, but here's the deal. In real estate, doing what I do, doing what I know, I can still mitigate the taxes in California, right? I don't know who's watching this, but you can still mitigate the taxes in California just by depreciating your assets, by doing cost segregation type studies. So you can still net zero out in California. If I net zero out in California, I still net zero.
Gavin's a big show of the fan.
Yeah, he's a big fan of the show. Yeah, I bet he is. He's going to watch this.
Big show. Yeah, for sure. He's one of our Patreon members. Now, speaking of which, Claire, who's a Tier 3 Patreon member, wanted to ask you a question, and I'm very curious as well. What your take is on foreign investors, especially Chinese and other adversarial investors gobbling up commercial and private real estate here in America. Is that something that you think about, you face? Does it impact you? What are your thoughts on it?
This is a phenomenal question. So if I were still in Oklahoma, I would have said, I don't know anything about it. Moving to San Diego, a ton more money that is outside, and especially Chinese. Even the Chinese are in Oklahoma too. They buy a bunch of land and they do marijuana distribution out of Oklahoma because it's legal. Whole nother story. But specific to real estate, like for instance, the house I lease right now, because we just leased the house that we went into because we didn't buy. We were going to fill the area out. Boom, lease the house. They're Chinese. They have jobs. A lot of them work for tech. They allegedly, a lot of them work for tech. Yeah. They work for Google. They work for Soundbite, which is free, or Byte something. ByteDance, I think it's ByteDance, which is TikTok. Mm-hmm. I've run into a ton of them. High paid W-2 jobs, and they're all a lot of them Chinese. My thoughts on it? I mean, I don't think it's a good thing. Obviously, I don't think it's a good thing, but it's happening. It's happening at a decent level, and a lot of times there's so much money being influxed, good and bad, because it is moving the needle in our economy, which people don't understand that's what the economy's made of. We don't live on the gold standard anymore. We live off of trading money as the debt, trading money. So they come in, they buy property, somebody benefits from it. The downfall is, I mean, you're up against them, so you need to educate yourself and buy the property. But a lot of them are buying property cash. They'll buy their primary residence cash. For instance, the house that I'm in, they bought for around $1.6 million. It's worth about $4 million now. They bought it in 2020 for $1.6 million, just because I know the records on it. I look at real estate, so I understood, just was like looking at the area. How much was the house we bought, or are we leasing when they bought it? They bought it in 2020 for 1.6, and it's worth $4 million now, and they bought it cash. So there's a lot of influx of outside money.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's my take on it? I mean,
well, I mean, I guess, like, do you think that it's government sponsored? Do you think it's just Chinese citizens?
Isn't the Chinese government and the mafia all in one, pretty much?
Yeah, I guess. But do you think that, like, say the property you're in, I mean, do you think that they're just Chinese citizens that are taking advantage of the market, or do you think that they're backed by the CCP and there's a bigger, more nefarious plot behind all of it?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I would. My gut would say that they're just Chinese citizens, working for tech companies that are out here. Yeah. Honestly,
yeah,
I really do. I don't think there's like a massive nefarious plan Does that happen at scale? Probably so.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah. Any thoughts on like the big commercial farms being purchased by Chinese LLCs that, you know, are shell companies for the government?
Dude, I mean, I don't agree with any of that.
Yeah.
That's a horrible process. Anything that's being controlled by an outside source that's not a United States company or United States citizens that are directly here, then it's a horrible opportunity. Like she stated, whoever stated this person stated in their question, how like giving a foreign country land in our country just seems insane.
Yeah.
Insane.
I mean, most countries won't let you buy shit in their
for logical reasons. Yeah. I mean, I think we should have all been able to sit down and say that's a fucking dumb idea, but apparently that's been yanked out of our hands and control.
Yeah. Entrepreneurial wise, you know, entrepreneurs, I think, especially in the age of social media, you know, tend to get criticism, whether it's envy based or whatever it is. Have you experienced much?
Sure, for sure. Especially with the Lambo, you know.
Yeah,
they're like the Lambo guru, right? Yeah. Like they all see the Lambo, and some people listen. Here's the deal: I like cars forever. I just told you guys earlier I was in auto body and collision.
Yeah.
So I fucked with cars since I was young. I drove a '69 Chevy to high school. Sometimes, you know, towards my end of my high school when I was in trouble.
Yeah.
So I get hacked on for that. Yeah. There's definitely, and there are some gurus out there. There's some fucking people that don't help people out, and you have to really dive into. If you guys are looking at other mentors, you're looking at other people on IG. You have to really see what their intentions are, right? And how and other people around them work with them. That's what's huge. Yeah. You can feel it if you open your eyes and you get some of the glamour out of it.
Would you say that's the most common criticism you get is driving a fucking Lambo?
Yeah, it's just the Lambo thing, which is funny because you and I both talked about having cool cars in the past before this podcast started. So it's a car thing. It's a car. It's a guy. It's a car guy thing.
Yeah.
More than it is. Here's the deal. You drive the Lambo or the Lambo drives you. And I bought it to drive it for fun and fucking. I could have, dude. Before the Lamborghinis, I'd be like, "What'd you have before?" I had a '68 convertible Cadillac with an old freaking 427 in it. You know, awesome. And I took the kids to school in that.
Yeah.
It was all red and had a white interior.
Yeah, that's awesome. Fucking Santa Mobile.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of Santa Mobile, are you going to grow the fucking beard back and do it or what?
Is this your question or on paper?
That's my question.
I don't think I am. I don't know. I think my face is too pretty, Mike. What do you think?
I think you should grow it back. I just think you should, not to cover it up. I mean, you got a strong beard. You know.
I do have a strong beard. It's like yours. Yeah, it's in there.
You should go for it. But just leave it whatever color it comes out.
Did you see when I bleached it?
I did see that. That shit's priceless.
Nick's like he's not fucking. Yeah. Mike's like he's not coming on the fucking podcast.
Now we all have our moments. No, I agree with the car stuff. I mean, I do think there's plenty of people out there that get into cars for the status aspect of it, and
sure.
And you know, there's a lot of people that'll be like, oh, you know, I bought this and bought that, and you know, a month later I was like, that was fucking dumb. I didn't like it, didn't drive it. I think for people that really enjoy the actual act of driving, they're fucking amazing. You know, I for sure fall into that category. I just really enjoy the experience of driving an amazing car. But
exactly. Well, man, you and I both know, but people have that's why I'm going back, man. Like that's why you have to have a good foundation of confidence as a person, as a man, get what you want. If you don't want that, I know people that have over what I paid for my car in hunting equipment, man. Yeah. You and I both know that. You being in Texas, right? They have it in horses. God, you could spend it in freaking one horse, you know, half a horse for the price of my car.
Yeah.
So, you know, that if you're insecure and you have all these things, if you're not, that's why it's so important to have a solid foundation, to be proud of yourself, be physically fit, have a good financial head on your shoulders, family, faith. And that's what my programs are more about. Like you have that as well. Personal development coincides with wealth because nobody wants to fucking be fat and drive the Lambo.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be jacked. And we all knew the dude that was jacked at the gym, hustling steroids out of the back of his van, and he's broke and he's a horrible life too. So you don't want a trade off.
Yeah.
You know? And so when I say all that, because the car in general, if you enjoy the car, get the car. But you gotta have the confidence in it. If people are like making fun of you and it hurts your feelings, or if you buy it just to get clout and to build up your confidence, it's a very, very fragile amount of confidence, and it's going to be crushed.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Market-wise, I know you said there's opportunity everywhere, so maybe it doesn't matter. Do you see, generally speaking, with the rates being, maybe they lower them, maybe not, the kind of overinflation of the market, but there still seems to be a negative, or a shortage
Yep.
Do you see a bubble coming? Like, do you have a prediction?
Yeah, honestly, people ask, they say the projection of the bubble and the crash and all this, but the reality is there is an affordable housing crisis in the United States. And you guys all know it. We just talked about the price of real estate in San Diego. Oklahoma prices have gone up too, surprisingly. Everybody's prices across the nation has gone up. So there's an affordable housing crisis. Think about first-time home buyers. There's not enough inventory. So ever since 2008, builders across the nation haven't built enough inventory to keep up with the demand. So we've constantly been in a deficit of real estate. And if we're in a deficit of real estate, it's simple. Supply and demand, guys. You guys learned this in economics in high school. If you don't have enough product and you have a demand for it, you have a shortage. And not to mix in the caveat of what you mentioned a minute ago. You have some people buying VRBOs now. That wasn't a thing 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Yeah. You have some hedge funds buying property, right? They're scooping up property. They're buying some full new developments and turning them into rentals. You're competing against them. And so now we have a shortage of housing. We have other competitors in there monetizing it and turning it into a business. So it just makes it even harder. So the bubble and real estate itself popping off and crashing is an illusion. There's no way it can, especially now, don't get me wrong, if you have a $20 million house or you have the most expensive house in your bougie neighborhood, you could have a problem. The price of that property may go down. If you purchase that in peak 2022, you could get punched in the face. But affordable housing is like a triangle, right? Like the most expensive property at the top of the triangle, everybody has to move down a tier when a crisis comes or the economy crashes. And so if you're in a lower tier bracket of property, if you own investments at the lower part of the pyramid here, affordable housing, then you're bulletproof for the most part.
Yeah. Well, it makes good sense. I mean, and to me, I think kind of furthers your point of if you know what you're doing, there's opportunity all the time. It's just you got to know where to do it, and you got to be able to look at the numbers like fucking Neo in the Matrix and say, yes, this works, and it makes sense, or no, it doesn't.
Yeah. And a lot of people sit on equity. That's why a lot of people have fear. You know, going back to your question about me moving, I didn't have any fear because we had moved so many times. So we moved here. This wasn't going to change our life to move across town in Oklahoma and build a bigger house, build a newer house, build a new thing. I was like, what's going to change our lives the most and impact us and where we really want to go? We'll freaking move to San Diego.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so, but that fear of sitting on that one, and you hear this like, oh, I have a 3% interest rate. I'm never going to sell my home. I just can't get my head around that you're going to die in this property and that you're going to stay there forever unless you're already in that time of life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't mean like time of life you're dying. I mean just in that phase of life. Like I'm settling down. Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Like but if you're in your freaking 30s, yeah, exactly. You don't plan on moving. You like where you're at.
Yeah.
But I hear people all the time like, I want to get into real estate investing. We have $500,000 in equity and my wife's scared to sell it.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, you're sitting on cash and you're not deploying that to make more money and you're 35 years old. What are you going to do?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, make it work for you.
Exactly.
When you look back at your entire journey from kind of asshole teenager.
Yeah, 100%.
Maybe.
100.
Maybe. You know, to
I don't know if I'm not an asshole now.
Aren't we all?
Yeah.
You know, to Marine, to entrepreneur, to business coach, do you look back at that and have a proudest moment?
Having my family with me throughout the journey.
Yeah.
Easily. Because you see so many times people fall apart. That's an easy answer, Mike. Like, being able to still be a good dad to my kids and be around for them. Too many times people feel like they need to trade. Guys, if you're watching this, you don't have to trade. You can fucking be a good dad. You can be a good father. You can be a good husband. You can be physically fit. And you can be a fucking multimillionaire. And I think we were fed this myth that you have to choose one.
Yeah.
And that's bullshit.
Yeah.
It's just laziness.
Yeah.
It's just really leaning in on one vertical, and that's bullshit.
Yeah. Amen. Is there any advice you'd give your younger self?
There's probably a lot of things I would or wouldn't have done, but I think I needed those things in order to shape me to who I am today.
Yeah, yeah, so, I agree. If you could go back, would you do anything different?
I probably would have gone. I mean, yeah. Let's not run out where I am now because I'm very proud of where I am now, and I'm great, and I live an amazing life. I love it. So if I were to go back at that time, I have the shoulda, coulda, woulda myself. I would have fucking gone active duty, or I would have gone more special operations and pushed into it. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. Right.
I mean, with that, I guess I've always found, I guess to your previous point is that you wouldn't be where you're at if you'd done any of that. Though,
we don't know.
Like, I mean, you can almost guarantee it, you know, because like it was one of the things that earlier on in my adult life, I kind of regretted like not wrestling being from Iowa. You know, it's like I swam, my dad was a wrestler. He's a good high level wrestler, and you know was largely physically, I won't say incapacitated, but was pretty beaten up from it. Like, I mean, he wrestled in college and did well and everything. And so when we were growing up, he was in the swimming pool a lot doing like physical rehab from knee surgeries. And, you know, his hips were, I think, kind of a mess, or his lower back. And so, you know, again, it's like at the time I didn't think anything of it. And you know, throughout my entire life, I've thought about it. And there was a period as a young man where I was like, fuck, I wish I had wrestled instead of swam. There's no fucking way I'd be sitting right here if I had wrestled instead of swam. No fucking way. No. You know, so I think it's important not to really have regrets. I mean, within reason. I mean, I guess if you turn into a fucking meth head, and destroy your entire life,
dude.
You know,
I like you, man. I'm more scared of not taking the risk and not taking the action and waking up fucking 60 years old and regretting that I didn't do something. Yeah. So I lean in on that. Like, I'm literally like, the people that I talk to all the time and I coach are scared or paralyzed to do anything. I would, you know, one of my mentors at the very beginning, the same guy that convinced me to get into to building, he had already gone bankrupt before. And I remember saying to him, what if I go bankrupt? What if these things happen? Because he had to live, he went through 2008 as a real estate guy. And he goes, dude, I've gone bankrupt and I was able to make it back in half the time than the first time. And he just thought it was nothing. And to me, it was paralyzing. And he asked me this, and you get a lot of veterans to watch this. So I want us to make this is super important. He said, you just got back from Iraq less than 2 years ago, bro. What happened if something happened then? I was like, I'd fucking been dead. Like, no big deal, like off the top. And, you know, this would have happened, whatever. I was ready for that. I was prepared for that. And he's like, what happens if you fail at this business? I go, I guess I got a good family. I'm fortunate. Maybe somebody's not. But my worst case for me would have been living in my parents' basement for a short period of time and catching a job. And I would have worked for my dad again, and I would have gotten a job somewhere else, and I figured it out. But that was the worst case. He was like, kind of looked at me like, you're a fucking idiot. Yeah. And I was like, I felt like one.
Yeah.
I did. I was like, you're right.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Perspective matters, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And that's one thing I think that going through that as a young man, going through the military, going to Iraq, doing these things, gained me perspective and probably ultimately, and still does, push me. I feel like I have a good gauge of time. Yeah. Of like how valuable time is. And I think a lot of people that, at least I see it, average Joes we'll call them, they don't have a perspective of time or value it as much as I think us veterans do.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think, you know, if you take anything away, it's don't wait. If I can get started. Don't wait. Yeah. The number that you rattled off, is that the best way for people to get a hold of you?
Yes, it is. There's going to be, I think your badass media guy said he's going to put it in the bottom here.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Anything else you want to, I guess, mention or bring up, or anything that I didn't ask you?
No, like I said, guys, my number's going to be at the bottom. Shoot me a text. Let's chat. See if it's a good fit for you guys or not. I appreciate Mike having me out and letting me pitch my coaching program. Like I said, it sounds like a pitch. It's not a pitch. It's just my life, my trajectory. And I think I think I owe it to give back, to show other people how they can do it for themselves too, because there's extremely talented people out there and a lot of veterans that watch this. Like, you veterans, you guys looking for another mission, you guys can have all of the things that I was talking about. You can have it, and you have the fortitude, and you have the business, or you have the experience prior. Don't waste it.
Yeah. Amen. I have a gift for you as a
I
Mic Drop alumni now.
Thank you, man. Awesome. Hell yeah.
Being from Oklahoma, I would hope that you have at least some way to rock what's in the black box. Big thanks to John Johnston.
Oh yeah, I do. Absolutely do.
Big thanks to John Johnston and Champion Choice Silver for that. The consummate mic drop buckle. So,
hey, one thing we didn't cover with this belt buckle.
Yeah.
When I got out of the Marine Corps, I come home. I was fucking drinking a lot. I was doing my thing. I bought a house. I had a roommate that was a pipeline welder. I went through a cowboy phase. Austin went through a cowboy phase before I met my wife. Cowgirls are dangerous, boys. So before I met my wife, and I went to rodeo school, and I rode bulls up at Sankey's Rodeo School in Rose Hill, Kansas for a short period of time.
What the fuck does that work? How does that work?
I was looking for adrenaline.
No, I mean like like how does bull riding school work?
It's literally like a camp. Like, you go up there and freaking they buck you on, like, you know, smaller bulls. And you wear the helmet and the vest, and it's not like this is a theatrical thing for you to check off on your belt. It's literally it's Sankey's. I mean, if you guys look it up, it's a legit rodeo school where they've trained a lot of bull riders.
How long?
And they bring them in. It's only like a 4 or 5 day.
Oh,
event.
really?
I did that, and I was riding horses, and I started bucking other people's like broncs and their colts and stuff, and riding them, just fucking doing stupid shit.
Oh shit!
I was just trying to spike my adrenaline again.
Is there anything you could, like? How would you describe what it's like doing that?
That is the most adrenaline that I've ever had in my life.
Really?
Yeah. hands
Oh,
down.
shit.
Over anything I ever did in the military. Yeah.
What, like, can you
You just
walk us
can't
through it?
control anything.
Yeah.
And I'm not riding by all means, guys. I'm not riding fucking PBR bulls here or anything.
Yeah.
You know, I was just little baby bulls. Like, but still, you're riding a live animal. There's nothing like it.
I mean, about how much do they weigh, the ones that you're on?
God, I don't know. I'd hate to guess. I bet it. I don't even know what a regular bull weighs. So if I overshot it, they're going to fucking murder me in the comments. If I undershoot it, they're going to be like, you're a pussy.
That's wild, man. Did you get hurt?
No, I never got hurt. I just did it for a short stint, did it. And fortunately, I met my wife not like, a year or so after and stopped.
What does something like that cost?
The school, I think it was like $500 or something.
Yeah. That's 4 or 5 days and you ride.
Yeah.
Like, is there a
You
class?
go train, classes, sit in, learn how to tie your rope, learn how to do your stuff, learn how to tie your boots up. Because you don't just put boots on, you have to leather them around so they'll stay on your feet.
Are there like points of performance mechanics?
100%. Oh, yeah.
Do you remember any of them?
No, I was only like in a very short period of my, it's a very small blip of my life, but it's a very funny thing. And I only bring it up because it's belt buckle.
Is there one takeaway, like, this is what you do if you find yourself on top of a pissed off fucking bull?
When you fall, just get up and run. Yeah. That's what the one takeaway is. Like, get up and run.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. Don't, whatever you do, just get up and run. And those rodeo clowns are fucking saints, man. Those guys will jump right in and save your ass.
Yeah, they're a lifesaver.
Yeah.
From the looks of it, I've never been on the back of a bull, but that's good shit, man. Well, I appreciate you coming and taking your time. We're going to jump on Patreon and do kind of an after action and talk a little bit of car bullshit, as well as a couple other tips for real estate investing, just kind of some points of performance that way. So join Patreon if you want to check that out. But thank you. I know this, the transition from being in the military in any capacity to trying to figure out what you want to do after that is probably the most common struggle and question that I get in either comments or people emailing in or DMs or whatever. And so, to me, to be able to have a fellow veteran on that went the entrepreneur route and can speak to that in a totally different industry than what I'm in is refreshing for me, and I hope helpful for the listener. So I appreciate you doing that.
One thing I want to say about that is that you got to do the math backwards on that too.
Yeah.
Too many times people want to get the job because it makes the money, but then they get the job and they don't have the time.
Yeah.
And then you got to go back to school. A lot of them go back to school. They're like, I need more education because I was in the military and I feel like my life was on pause. Now I go back to the civilian world and I feel uncomfortable. But what you have to do is the math backwards. What are you really looking for when you're looking at this job? And nobody tells you this when you're in high school or when you get out of the military or in the military.
Yeah.
What are you really looking for? I was looking for time, freedom, money, and experiences. And so I wanted to have the experiences with my family. I wanted to have the money to do it, and I wanted to have the time.
Yeah.
And so there's only about 5 financial vehicles that can truly get you there. Growing a business, real estate, tech, certain things like that, right? Industries that'll actually get you to a point where you can have that.
Fucking Bitcoin.
Apparently, Jesus, we should have done that too.
Shit, man, I got a story about Bitcoin. I'll share on the Patreon the start of Bitcoin and how I didn't jump on the wave and could.
Damn. Yeah. That's all I had to say though. Is like,
yeah, no, I appreciate it. It's all good nuggets for people to take with them. And again, I appreciate you sharing your story and reinforcing a lot of the things that I've learned the hard way. So appreciate you. Thank you for coming. For you guys, hope you enjoyed it. Again, I hope you can take the value in seeing that progression of being in the military and not really knowing what the fuck you want to do and kind of learning the hard way in a lot of different ways and ultimately finding success in doing so. If you didn't enjoy it, choke yourself. And until next time, this is Mic Drop.